Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon,
And I'm Aiara.
and welcome to the Mustardcast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Today we have a guest. Emmet, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Emmet. I'm kind of a freelance film guy, I guess you could say. I do editing and stuff. Yeah, is there anything else I should add to that? I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. Um, yeah, me and you went to middle school together. We just talked about that a little bit before we started recording. Um,
Oh yeah,
and we've kept semi in contact, since then. I feel like me and you hung out outside of school once. I came over to your house. I remember coming over. I think that was the
yes,
first time I ever had hummus. Was when I came over to your house.
really.
That was
That was the first time.
that was the first time. I've been eating it regularly since.
Interesting.
I actually think there was a few years I
Huh.
hadn't had hummus for a while, and it was sometime earlier this year that I'd had it for the first time in like a couple years, and I was like, man, I forgot how good hummus was.
Well, I'm glad I put you on to hummus.
Yeah,
It's a very good snack.
yeah. So we
You know.
start the podcast with just talking about media we've been consuming lately, any movies, books, shows, music, whatever. Um, and Ayer, you can start, and then Emmett, once you get a feeling of how we do that, you can go after them.
Sure.
All right, cool beans. Um, watched the first episode of Arcane, and you were right. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, I'm gonna watch the rest probably sometime this week. Um, been playing a lot of Katamari and Pikmin because they re-released Pikmin on the Switch, so I've just been playing tons and
Oh,
tons of it.
the like HD releases of one and two came out.
They came out the same day they announced them,
Oh,
so
I
I
didn't
was like,
realize that.
yep, it was kind of unclear, but I was like, I mean, I've always wanted to play Pikmin, so I was like, whatever, we ball. I bought both the bundle, and have been playing those a lot. And then the new Katamari remake, I've been playing a lot. What else? Um, trying to catch up with Chainsaw Man, because it's been updating very quietly, and nobody told me.
Yeah, very very consistently, which is kind of
Very-
surprising.
And nobody told me, so now I have a whole bunch of chapters to catch up on. But I've seen screenshots, and they're insane. Other than that, though, not much.
Yeah, I actually just opened the latest chapter not too long ago. I haven't started reading it yet.
Mm.
Is that all you got?
Yep, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on it.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned Arcane. I watched that like I mean, not recently, but it was a few months ago or so. I thought that was great. I never played League of Legends or anything, but I had a really good time with that. So I think you should definitely finish that up. And what else? I watched at what was it? That Andor,
Andor.
like yeah, Star Wars Andor, like a few weeks ago, because like like barely anyone saw it. You guys mentioned it on the cast, I think once or twice, that I listened to, and you guys were mentioning that it was good. But I hadn't really been that big a fan of the other Star Wars shows, so I wasn't like that keen to watch it. But finally, I got like a month of Disney Plus, um, for a deal, and so I was like, okay, let me just check it out. And I think honestly, I think it's one of the best shows I've seen in the past 5 years, and
Yeah,
that's
Ooh.
it's really
bizarre
good.
because I'm not even that huge of a Star Wars like person like at all. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's the best thing Star Wars has ever come up with, in terms of their, I know that might be sacrilege to a lot of people, but I thought it's like, even my dad like started watching it too, like, and he doesn't care for Star Wars at all, and he was like, oh, this is actually like really really good. um,
Yeah,
yeah, and he's like really like opinionated on stuff. Like, even like I can be opinionated on some things, but like he's like 12 times as much. Um, so when it gets his approval, I get surprised even. Um, yeah, that was really great, and I've been reading um, Game of Thrones, like the book series now.
I've
Uh,
been thinking about
and
rereading the first book and reading through the rest of
yeah,
them.
yeah, I read. That's what I read the first book, I think, like back in high school
Same.
at some time, and then I reread it. Now it's actually like, I'm not that big of a reader. I'm not, because I don't like reading. I'm just really slow. Um, but those, for some reason, think it's primarily the first book. Like I just kind of, but those in general, I think it's his writing style or something. They kind of like they fly by for me, or maybe it's because I've seen the show, so I kind of already have kind of a visual image, even though a lot of things are described differently and play out differently in the books. But I've also read the prequel series that he had called Dunk and Egg, which they're turning into a TV show. Or they were like they had everything planned out, but it's been kind of dropped because of the writer's strike, which I guess we'll get into later. But, yeah. And also I've as of not I get kind of in and out of reading comics and stuff like that. But I recently read the one of the Action Comics arcs, one of the recent ones. Was it
the War World one?
Yeah, that was with Philip Kennedy Johnson, who I met
Really?
last year at Comic-Con. Him and his wife were very nice. But
I've been reading.
Yeah,
the current. I've been reading the arc after that, the current arc, but I've been meaning to go back and read the War World arc.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to read the newer, the one that came after it yet. But yeah, I have some of some of the issues from that, so I'm hoping to get into that because I love the War World arc. I think it did kind of peter out a little bit towards the end, but for the most part, it's very strong. And as like I didn't. Like Superman wasn't like a superhero I had like strong opinions on, like either way at first, but now after reading that and kind of like I feel like I have a full like grasp and understanding of the character, and I'm starting to like really enjoy it. Like I feel like once you have a good writer on there, it's good. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I've been talking about Superman a lot the last few episodes because I used to be similar to where when I was a kid I felt like I liked Superman, but then as I got older I feel like I kind of let the I feel like opinions of people online taint my view of Superman. And then when I started to just, read more Superman comics, go back and rewatch Superman the Animated Series, I started to, and once I started to realize just how much I value Hope, I started to really start to fall in love with the character Superman again, like I did when I was a kid. And Superman is a great character. All it takes, like people say he's boring, all it takes to realize he isn't boring is to read a good Superman story and you realize, oh yeah, this is why he's one of the most popular superheroes on the face of planet Earth. This is why he's the blueprint. He was literally the first superhero. He's the reason all these other heroes exist. Superman is a great character. I'm excited for James Gunn's Superman Legacy whenever that happens. I think they actually have said when it'll come out, but I think it's like 2026, something like that. It'll be a while.
Yeah, probably. I heard it's already written,
well, he's writing it
partially.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, for me, I've been rewatching Ben 10. I'm actually close to finish up the last season of the original series and moving into Alien Force pretty soon. Ben 10, Teen Titans cartoon from 2003 is a good cartoon that I don't like as much now as I did when I was a kid. It's not that it's bad. It's just that something about it just doesn't suit my taste as it is today. So I was afraid that Ben 10 was going to be the same. But ever since I've started rewatching it, I'm just like, it's good. Ben 10 is real good. I still love Ben 10 like I did when I was a kid. Ben 10 is amazing. And I knew I was going to love Batman because I rewatched that, not in its entirety, but I think like half of the first season a while ago. And now I'm starting to actually go through the entirety of the series again because I don't think I've ever seen every single episode. So I'm going through it, making sure I watch all of it. And Batman the Animated Series, real good, man. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, the greatest Batman there ever was.
Oh, yeah.
I actually watched... I've never seen any Spike Lee movie until recently. I watched Do the Right Thing not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
No Spike Lee movies?
No Spike Lee movies.
None at all?
No,
That's
I'm gonna watch School Days soon now after watching Do the Right Thing.
You have to watch School Days next. That one's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down the list. I'm gonna watch a bunch of Spike Lee movies. This is my first time watching Spike Lee movies. I don't know. It's never come across my radar. I always heard about Spike Lee and how good his movies are, and I just haven't watched them. I feel like it's blasphemous of me, especially as a black person. People are like, just how haven't you watched a Spike Lee movie, bro? And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, for real?
It just hasn't happened. I feel like the closest I got, maybe I've seen bits and pieces of the Malcolm X movie, but that's about the closest I got until recently. It's a good movie. I see why people like Spike Lee. So some other movies that I thought I was watching for the first time, but one of them I actually realized that I'd seen it before. Mission Impossible, the very first one. What was it? The new one's coming out soon. And I'd seen the last three Mission Impossible movies, but I thought I hadn't seen the first three. And I know I hadn't seen 2 and Ghost Protocol, but I have seen the first Mission Impossible before after rewatching it. But I'm gonna go through the first 3, and then I'm gonna see the new one in theaters. I also watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, another movie that I thought I'd never seen before, but I think I'd seen parts of it before when I was younger, but I definitely had never seen it in its entirety. And I'm also gonna make my way through all of the Indiana Jones movies, and then see the new one in theaters. I also recently rewatched Arcane. God, is Arcane good? Like, this is why Aiara started watching it, because I was mentioning how I started watching it with a friend who'd never seen it before, and the plan was just to get them jump started on watching the show, but then all it did was like rejuvenate my interest in the show again and had me rewatch it for a third time. And it's easy to watch through because even though the episodes for an animated series are longer than most animated series, 40 minutes, but there's only 9 episodes, so I just ran through them, watched 3 episodes a day. Arcane's just ridiculously good. It's beautiful, and I'm glad you're finally into it. We'll talk about it more once you've watched all of it, or at least watched one of the 3 episode arcs, because the way it released was they released 3 episodes every Saturday when it was coming out, and I hope they stick with that way of releasing it when it comes out, because I like watching shows week to week, and I feel like this is a good. I feel like this is a good in between when it comes to binging and week to week, where you release multiple episodes at once, week to week. I feel like that's a good system.
Yeah.
That way,
I agree.
That way you please both audiences that way. I also rewatched.
Also, you have like sorry, go on.
No, what were you about to say?
I was saying also it's a nice, like, you have like a nice little arc for each, like, 3 episodes too, and it's just like it's like almost like a mini episode, like longer episodes within having episodes also. But yeah,
it's honestly rewatching it, I'm like, how are they gonna like wrap up this? Well, obviously there's more story to tell, but I mean, like, how are they gonna wrap up these arcs every 3 episodes? And I'm like, they do it very well, and it feels like they don't have enough time to do it, but they always manage to, at the end of those 3 episode arcs, end the story pretty well and succinctly. So yeah, they're just good at what they do. I also rewatched Avatar: The Way of Water recently. I'd seen it in theaters, hadn't seen it since, because it's a long movie. When you watch a movie that long, it's gonna be a while before you decide to sit down and watch it again. It's a good movie. It's definitely better than the first one. It's essentially just as pretty as the first one, but with a much more interesting story and much more interesting characters overall. The tech, of course, has evolved, so technically it's visually better than the first one, but I feel like if you watch them back to back, you might not notice as much if you don't have a keen eye, because they both just look so good. But yeah, what I've always found interesting about the Avatar series, because I like the first movie, is just the world itself and the Na'vi culture. I've always found that the most interesting, and they doubled down with that in the second movie. But I like the Avatar movies. I don't know if he needed to make 5 of them. I think a trilogy would have been perfectly fine. I don't know why he decided, 5 movies. That's weird, but I'll watch them all. I like them. But yeah, we're gonna move into animation. So I sent you. Whoa, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna do the right thing. That's one of the best movies, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, really?
So I didn't get a chance to mention that earlier, but that's just like a perfect movie in my opinion. Yeah, we can move on to animation. I didn't want to hold you.
Yeah, so I sent you a trailer for a Dead Cells animated series. Aiara. You managed to check that out? Yeah. So Dead Cells is a video game, and they're making a mini series out of it. It's being animated by the studio Bobby Pills, and it's going to be on some streaming service called ADN before it's released, and exclusively in France before it's made available worldwide. And the description describes it as it's set on a cursed island that has been racked by a strange plague after the island's foolish king develops a remedy that ends up turning the population into monstrous creatures. Prophecies depicting a flame-headed hero begin to appear, and this hero is essentially the main character of the game that you play. And I never know if that game had a story. I just do I think it's a roguelike, right? Where you,
yeah, I believe so.
yeah, you die, you restart from the beginning, and you upgrade your character and continue on. And what is it? This is one of those games where all of the trailers for the game were like that didn't show gameplay, had great 2D animation. Similar to something like League of Legends and Arcane. And it's nice to see these animated series coming from video games that have had these great animated trailers. Now we just need Overwatch to finally follow suit and make an animated series. So Batman Cape Crusader, speaking of Batman the animated series, this is being made by Bruce Timm, the like showrunner of the original Batman cartoon. So it's being described as everything that Bruce Timm wanted to do in Batman the animated series, but because it ran on the kids channel, he wasn't able to do it. And this worries a lot of people because despite being the creator and designer for most of the characters, when it comes to writing, Bruce Timm did some weird stuff. Namely, he was obsessed with having Bruce date Barbara, who is Batgirl, and also the same age as his adopted son, Dick Grayson, and and who he's known her since she was a child. Weird
That's
stuff.
why it happened in the Killing Joke adaptation.
Oh my god! And I think he also, I think he directed that one too. It's just weird obsession he has with having Batman and Barbara be together. And the thing is, it wouldn't be as weird if he made a universe where she wasn't like his niece. But he's doing it specifically in stories where she's practically his niece. It's so strange. But the reason I'm not concerned about him bringing that weird stuff into it is because of some of the other creatives working on it. Some producers working it are Matt Reeves, J.J. Abrams, and the hit writer is Ed Brubaker, who is known for a really good run on Captain America comics. And one of the writers is also Greg Rucka, who I absolutely love. Greg Rucka. He's a writer. He's turned Batwoman from the love interest to Batman that she used to be into being the complete opposite of that. Talked about that a few episodes ago. She used to be a love interest. She was originally created to be a love interest for Batman, but then in 2010 she was recreated as the furthest thing from that as possible because she's gay and she's his cousin. So yeah, Greg Rucka run on Batwoman. What is it called? Batwoman Elegy by Greg Rucka, drawn by J.H. Williams III, is real good. I highly recommend it. And yeah, because he's working on it and Ed Brubaker is working on it, I'm like, that's exactly how it happened with the original series. There were some writers that were able to curb his weird writing and actually make the show amazing. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I like Batman. I like Bruce Timm Batman. Hopefully he doesn't do any weird stuff.
Yeah.
So Emmet, have you seen Spider-Verse?
I have.
Okay,
yes.
Great, good. So we can, because we talked about Spider-Verse last week. We had a whole 25-minute discussion about it. First minutes, only the first 5 minutes were spoiler free, and then everything the 20 minutes after that were spoiler filled. So
yeah,
there are a few things that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week that I want to talk about now. And while we're at it, might as well get your opinion on the film as well. So spoiler alert, we're going to be talking spoilers. So first things first, a few animators for the film have come out about unsustainable working conditions that caused approximately 100 artists to leave the film. These include demands to redo finished work and potentially 11 hours a day for 7-day working weeks, according to the New York Vulture. And, as sad as it is to say, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
It's the crunch, even though things have been getting slightly better in the world of animation and, video games when it comes to crunch, it's still not great. And some studios still expected people to work more than they should. Mm-hmm. And, harm themselves in the process. And like they said, this resulted in hundreds, well, at least 100 people leaving the project, throughout its creation. And there were some false rumors, I think, of the movie being delayed to 2026 or something like that. I think those have been disproven. It was in my notes at first, and then I did a little bit more research just to be sure. And I don't think it's true. I think it's still going to come out next year. I wouldn't be surprised if it still gets delayed till later next year, but I think it's still going to be coming out next year. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we touched on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as it relates to the writer's strike a little bit. So I don't want to go too deep into it, but I just felt like we needed to talk about that. Anything you guys have to say about that before we actually talk about the movie itself?
It's just a shame because it's like all this praise that Spider-Verse is getting, and then it's like, the crunch is eternal. Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, I wasn't thinking of it when I watched it, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Just based on what I know of how horribly animators are treated and stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were working on this movie and the next one like back to back.
Oh yeah,
like,
they
at
were.
The same time.
That's been.
So
They've said that.
okay, yeah. So then I mean, this one was already a long thing. That's a lot of like frames to be animating and stuff like that, and using different animation styles. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I mean that just makes sense. He would be leaving.
I wouldn't be surprised if the writer's strike also results in this movie getting delayed.
Yeah.
But something we didn't talk about in our review last week, or I guess the week before that, was that there's a lot of like queer undertones in this movie, and something that I wanted to talk about last week, but there was just so much to cover in the last episode with a bunch of video game news and Spider-Verse itself was it DC's Pride anthology comic. And what I learned reading that comic, and I'll talk about that later because have time to talk about it this episode, is just how inherently queer comics are in general, but specifically in Spider-Verse. A lot of people online pointed out just the use of what people call bisexual lighting, as well as Gwen very clearly having like I think protect trans
kids.
trans kids flag like above her door frame in her room, and also the whole like a big part of the story is literally them coming out to their parents as superheroes, which in of itself can be seen as an allegory to coming out as a queer person, and whether intentional or not, I think it was them being afraid to do that. It relates. And so I just read everything out of order, so I have to restructure my thoughts. But yeah, well, I don't necessarily think that this means that Gwen or Miles are like canonically trans or bisexual. I do believe in the saying of once you put art out there, it's no longer your own, and part of that is allowing people the freedom to interpret a piece of art in any way that they want, and not trying to tell them that they're wrong for seeing what they need to or what they want to. You can have your own view of how you see something, but just because someone sees it differently doesn't invalidate the way you see it. So right. For anyone who sees themselves in those characters because of those very specific reasons, that's great. I even myself see some of myself in these characters, not just because Miles is black, but because of the whole bisexual thing. Like it's stories like this right. allow for that, for you to project yourself onto the character, and that's great.
It's very great, very great.
But speaking of, well, go ahead. Were you about to say something, Emmet?
Oh no, I was just nodding my head in agreement, and then I realized that you can't see that, so I verbally did it as well.
I also want to expand on I talked about it a little bit last episode of like why I view this movie as a complete package, and I watched tons of like reviews for some YouTubers I like, and they talk about how a lot of people have said this, and I don't agree with them, how you either can't like this movie more than the last one, or you can't properly judge this movie because it's a half of a two-part story. And I disagree with that completely. I think it is perfectly fine for you to judge half of a story just by itself, especially if it's something like this, like a movie, without having seen the second half. And there's just aspects of this movie that I like more than the first one. You can easily say like this movie is just as much Gwen's movie as it is Miles, and you could just use the fact that she goes through a complete character arc that ends with her going to help Miles complete his arc, as that's a reason why it's a whole movie. But I think that even though he doesn't, we don't get a completely satisfying ending to Miles' arc, we do get somewhat of an ending where he, the whole movie is people trying to tell him who he's meant to be with his parents and his, I think his teacher or his principal from the beginning of the movie trying to dictate how his life should go. And, eventually when that rooftop scene, after Gwen leaves, Miles' mom explains to him why she's been holding on so tightly and, ultimately loosens her grip a bit and tells him to stand up for himself when she isn't there. And he does just that with Spider-Man 2099 and the rest of the Spider People. And once he goes back to what he thinks is his universe, he reveals he's Spider-Man and, is unsatisfying because it wasn't actually his mom. But that was a complete arc. He went through that, and even though it technically didn't, it technically wasn't complete because that wasn't his actual or his universe's mom. It still, it still did it, and he probably says, early on when fighting Miguel, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing," and fights what he believes to be right, and that really resonates with me. Like I said last episode, "Be yourself" is the tagline for this Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and they say in the last movie a lot, anyone can wear the mask. And just, "Nah, I'm going to do my own thing," being kind of the through line in these next two films, just fits and really hits home with me of just being yourself and doing what you want to do. And, that combined with the racial and queer undertones, it just hit harder for me than the origin story of the first movie. The first movie is amazing, and it's a masterclass in the hero's journey, but I connected more personally with this second film and its themes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find it interesting because I'm kind of in the middle of what you were saying with how like reviewers were saying that you can't judge this as a full movie yet, and with you saying that you kind of can, because I agree that there's like, both Gwen and Miles have a full arc, but at the same time, I don't see it as complete because like entire like jokes are set up, payoff.
Yeah.
I feel like entire characters don't have a full like even the villain, like he's in the movie for a bit and then he kind of disappears and he's kind of there. It would be like kind of like if Infinity War like had Thanos for a little bit at the beginning, then like he disappears for most of the movie and then pops up occasionally there and here, like so that's the one thing, it's kind of like, so I think that they did a good job with like Gwen and Miles.
It is more so the villains that we don't get a complete story
for.
Like, there's definitely more to Miguel O'Hara's backstory that we're probably going to learn next movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even with Miguel and some of the other characters, I felt like they needed a little bit more too. Because this one, it felt, I don't know, because there are other Part 1 movies.
I mean, in reality,
like,
it isn't complete. There's it's I can
there's,
tell you were about to say it feels incomplete, and you're right because it's not.
yeah, and maybe the thing is, shoot, am I still on?
Yeah.
My computer just went black for a second. Sorry. The thing is, like, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't feel as conflicted if they put a Part 1 in the I had no idea that there was going to be a Part 2 or anything like that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that.
Blind.
And a lot of they definitely did that on purpose because the thing is, I knew it was a Part 1 because the original title of the movie was Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
You know what?
And
I
then
remember that, and I completely forgot.
Yeah, they changed the name of the sequel to Beyond the Spider-Verse, and a lot of people just forgot about that, or just didn't know that at all. So, and that was done on purpose. From what I understand, a reason they might have done that is because people are less likely to watch a Part 1 if they know there's going to be a Part 2. So they wanted to make sure that they got as many people in the theater as possible.
Right. I'm not sure. I get that, like, that's their reasoning, but I just don't think that's like the case, because I don't know. There's a lot of like Part 1 movies that are coming out, especially now the new Mission Impossible and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a Part 1 too, isn't it? And was it that?
Yeah.
Fast and Furious movie was a Part 1.
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually even the Mission Impossible one is like it says Part 1 in the title.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't think that's going to like drop in sales because of it. Though
I think maybe Fast X did though.
Maybe. Yeah, I heard a lot of people confused by the ending, that they're like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be a Part 2 thing. I haven't seen it, but
yeah, because I don't think they call it a Part 1 like Fast X, but like it's widely known that it's not only going to be 2 parts; it's going to be 3 parts, if I'm not mistaken.
3 parts, yeah. Essentially, it's just Fast X, Fast 11, and Fast 12.
Yeah, was it Fast X, Fast what IX Fast XI or whatever.
IX.
Or
Yeah.
XI. Yeah, it's
XII.
but I wanted to what was I gonna say? Oh, something else that I realized just seeing people talk about it online and just having more time to think about it after last episode was we talked about how Miguel is very clearly also not a traditional Spider-Man, and he's projecting onto Miles, not just because he also destroyed the universe before, but because he's also not a traditional Spider-Man. He didn't get bit by a spider. His origin is completely different, and we'll probably learn that next movie. So I don't want to say exactly what it is, but also it's the exact same with his core group of people, like the people he tells to go with him to go find Miles, Spider-Woman, and Ben Reilly. Neither of them are regular Spider people either. Ben Reilly is a clone of Peter Parker, and Spider-Woman did not become Spider-Woman by getting bit by a spider or anything like that. So him and his entire close-knit crew are people who are just like Miles and aren't traditional Spider people. But even then, there's also definitely a bit of jealousy there, because even then Miles is more of a Spider-Man than either of them, because he actually got bit by the spider.
I didn't think about it like that.
And none of them did. None of them got bit by the spider.
Hey, this may be just me misremembering, but you probably know more than me. Wouldn't that also does that also make them anomalies too? Or I forget exactly how Miles is the one or the first anomaly.
Yeah, I forget what he calls him, but the reality is it's just clear that his logic is flawed. Mm-hmm. And that he's working off of just like wrong logic. Because another thing is he says like, if you do this, the world would be destroyed, but we haven't gotten any examples of that.
Evidence of that.
Because we didn't see what actually happened in his universe. We didn't see what happened, like why not his universe, but the universe he went to have a kid. We don't know what happened to that universe. We just know that he went there and it got destroyed. And when Paviter's Moonbatten was being destroyed, it was being destroyed after the collider that the Spot had corrupted fell and crashed into the ground and created a giant black spot. Seemingly, that might not have anything to do with the fact that Peter saved the police captain, and it might just have to do with the Spot. So overall, Miguel might just be straight up wrong and projecting all of his insecurities onto Miles.
Right.
Yeah, I heard someone say that there's a lot of like assumptions made by Miguel that may not be accurate. But yeah, that makes sense now that I think about it. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's all I got for Spider-Verse. If you guys don't have anything else,
I have a quick thing. I've been learning recently via Twitter that there are multiple versions of the movie out in theaters.
I'm gonna see if I can notice that when I see it on Thursday, because I'm gonna watch it one last time in theaters on Thursday.
And I'm wondering, how are they going to stream this movie? I'm so scared that I'm never going to be able to see the same version of Spider-Verse that I saw in theaters ever again.
You know what?
That's terrifying.
It'd be funny if, when you watch it on the streaming service, it rotates which version of the movie it plays.
That would be neat.
Wait, so what are the differences?
I have no idea.
They're like little subtle things, like scene changes. Like in the version of Spider-Verse that I saw, I've seen a version floating around rather, where there's a scene with Webslinger's horse, and Miles is riding Webslinger's horse while running away from a gaggle of spider people. That was not in my Spider-Verse, and I'm kind of mad about it.
I had that one in my Spider-Verse.
I don't think I've seen that either.
I thought, he was riding a horse. I remember that.
That's weird. I'm gonna have to see if I notice anything different when I watch it. I'm soon.
Maybe maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll see another one that fixes all the problems I have with it.
It's just a completely different movie.
It's different. Yeah.
But
I was thinking, like they've having it's not the only time like a movie's done that, where they've had like multiple variations in different like theaters. Where like with Clue, they had like different endings, but you can now, most people experience it now with how the movie's like cut together, where it has one ending and then it goes, but this is actually how it happened. And then it cuts to but this is actually how it happened after that. But I don't know how they would do it with this one, because it seems like the cuts are kind of in the middle of the.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like just a collection of like scenes that were meant to be all together in the same scene, but they were like cut out for time and like placed in different versions of it. So it might just be a complete scene that in like a physical release or a streaming version of it. It's just a full scene that plays out and
Yeah,
has all of those different pieces put together.
Right.
maybe. Interesting.
But moving on to comics, coming off the high of watching Spider Verse, I actually started reading a bunch of Spider People comics. I actually only got a chance to read two, but I have a bunch of other ones in my backlog. I read Spider Punk. And in this comic, after defeating and beheading Norman Osborn in like some Spider Verse crossover comic where he first showed up, this story takes place after that, and Spider Punk is working with punk-themed versions of Captain America, Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Daredevil, and the Hulk, an attempt to destroy the remnants of Norman Osborn's power. It's a 5-issue miniseries with art by Justin Mason and coloring by Jim. I always come across a name in every episode that I'm not sure how to pronounce. I'm gonna try. Charlam Pitus. And Justin Mason's art reminds me of Ryan Otley, who draws the vast majority of Invincible, and Daniel Warren Johnson from Dual Powerbomb, which I've talked about previously on this podcast. And it's kind of a combination of those two art styles, which is very interesting. But this exaggerated version of the worst parts of America, where Norman Osborn is a oppressive U.S. president, and he has an army of like Venom symbiotes, is very interesting. And it makes me want to see what the Spider-Verse version of Spider-Man or Spider-Punk's universe is like. Because in this version, in the comics, he's American. He's from New York, and in the movie, he's British. And I would like to see how it's similar and different in some respects. I also read some Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen comics are real good. Was it my favorite track from the score by Daniel Pemberton is Spider-Gwen's theme in that movie, and I really wanted to see more Spider-Gwen. And the beginning of the Spider-Gwen comics is almost exactly the same as like the beginning of this movie. It shows her origin, her telling her father who she is, and then him eventually, accepting her. And even the line where she says wearing the badge, that he's wearing the badge so someone worse doesn't, is straight from the comics. And also the very first villain she fights in the comic is Vulture. So yeah, they straight up like switch it up a lot because it's like her universe is Vulture that she fights, but in the movie it's a different universe Vulture. But it's weird just how much they like it was, the exact same as it was in the comics in terms of the very beginning, her origin. I also have been reading some Daredevil comics. Daredevil is the most consistently well written and just a consistent character in general in terms of character art in comics. He's easily the most consistently well written character in comics in general. You can read any Daredevil comic and it's going to be good. It's just going to be good. That's just the type of character Daredevil is. That's why the Netflix Daredevil show is easily probably the best live action comic book adaptation ever. So in the current run by Chip Zdarsky, Matt Murdock is presumed dead, and this gives him an opportunity to leave New York and reform the Fist, which is an ancient organization that's once stood opposed to the Hand, which is the evil ninja group that Daredevil's always fighting in the comics and the show.
So there's a difference.
Yes, so the Fist was made to fight the Hand. And
Interesting.
and for people who don't know, Ninja Turtles were inspired by Daredevil, and that's why Daredevil has a master named Stick, and then you have Master Splinter, and then you have the Foot from Ninja Turtles, and you have the Hand in Daredevil. So for anyone who didn't know that, fun fact. Even in some comics, they actually have, so when Daredevil gets his powers by pushing someone out of the way of getting hit by some truck full of radioactive waste or something like that, and it will splash on him and blind him. And in some versions, that radioactive waste is also the ooze that turns the Ninja Turtles into ninjas. Like, they try to retroactively connect them even though they're completely separate things. It's really funny how they do that.
So unserious. I love it.
I'm surprised there hasn't, as far as I know, there hasn't been a crossover between the two, and there needs to be.
No. There's been a lot of crossover with them and Batman.
Yeah, and Power Rangers.
Oh, really?
And was it, they animated the Batman crossover, so I really want them to animate the Power Rangers crossover. Yeah. And for the eventually crossover with Daredevil and have that animated as well. I also read Daredevil Yellow, which is by the dynamic duo of Jeff Loeb and the late and great Tim Sale, who passed away recently. Who they also wrote and drew Batman Long Halloween, one of the most popular Batman stories on the face of the planet.
I just reread that recently. Actually.
Yeah, I've read it for the first time not too long ago. It like Tim Sale's art style is like hit or miss for some people, and for a while I wasn't a fan of it, but I finally sat down and read it, and I love his art style. It's so good.
Yeah, it's kind of it's
Very exaggerated.
very exaggerated, and he uses a lot of like negative space.
Yeah, for sure.
In a lot of his work.
Oh yeah, I love the way he draws Batman. It's great. The way he uses black to obscure most of him and show like highlights of blue to show like the creases in his forehead. It's just so good. And his art on Daredevil Yellow is good as well. And I also read last time I talked about they also made a Superman comic called Superman for All Seasons. That's also really good. And last but not least, actually that's not true because I go into DC Pride after this. So just before DC Pride, I read The Flash issue 799. And in this comic, Wally West says something that made me very happy. He calls himself the fastest thing alive, and I like the idea that Barry Allen is faster than any man. You know, he's the fastest man alive, but Wally West is quite literally the fastest thing in existence. I also read Flash number 800. I bought Flash 800 before Flash 799 came out on the DC Universe app because it was this big just celebration of Wally West's legacy, and I wanted to support it by actually purchasing it rather than reading it through the subscription service. And it has 4 stories in it created by some legendary Flash writers and artists, and it was great. The first story was about a bunch of villains talking about just how the Flash, like no other supervillain messes with the Flash because he's insane. Not because he's insane, but because his powers are insane. And they talk about how one time the Joker decided to go to what is it? I forget the name of the city. To the Flash's city and Keystone City, and was like just immediately whisked away and sent back to Gotham. And ever since then, no Batman villain has stepped foot in Keystone City because they just don't want to have to deal with the Flash.
That's absolutely insane to me. It's like, because from what I'm not really big into comics, but from what I know, like most Batman villains are like on a separate caliber of like villains. So to be like such an insane superhero that like the Batman villains don't want nothing to do with you, it's
like,
insane to me.
The Joker came, went to release a bunch of gas, and Flash said nope, and just sent him back to Gotham in like a second. But moving on to DC Pride, I'm just gonna talk about a couple of the stories from there, and then we'll move on to TV and film. So the opening forward by artist Phil Jimenez touches on writing a queer American comic during the time where, you know, a bunch of anti-LGBTQ legislature is being passed, and a part that particularly stood out to me is, you know, him talking about what does queer or queer presenting even mean in a genre that is decidedly queer already. So I have this quote from him that I just love. That what he says was, and this is the thing that I talked about earlier with Spider-Verse that made me just realize how inherently queer comic books are. He says that, and what does queer or queer presenting even mean in a genre that is decidedly queer already, despite attempts to minimize or hide those values over the years? Who is queer in a universe of colorfully costumed, bigger-than-life beings with outlandish names like drag queens, in a universe that is defiantly hopeful and mind-bending and even absurd, where justice for all holds such incredible weight? And that just made me go into this. Like, that was a great thing to read right before getting into the stories themselves. And, you know, it just had me real excited to read them. And the first story is by Grant Morrison, who a few years ago, I think, came out as non-binary. And, yeah, most famous for their run on Doom Patrol and Animal Man. I read their Animal Man run. Me and you talked about that back when I read it, Emmet. Their Animal Man run it's amazing. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Animal Man is a character that nowadays people probably don't even know about, let alone care about. But an Animal Man show based off that comic could be incredible.
I would love that. And actually, you could do it because, you know, I know that like part of his run was based so much on like how comics work and how like continuity changes stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with the fact with DC's continuity like changing
Yeah.
right now and stuff like that, it would be like the perfect
It
time
would
to
be so perfect.
do one.
And was
Yeah.
it James Gunn he loves bringing obscure characters into the light.
Oh yeah.
So I wouldn't be
Absolutely.
surprised if Animal Man is up there on his list.
Yeah, I mean half the roster of slated movies and TV shows are coming out that are sort of like obscure ones that like I haven't even heard of. So I totally makes sense for him to do one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his story, their story, Love is Lightning, or Love's Lightning Heart, written by Grant Morrison, drawn by Hayden Sherman, and colored by Mercer Louise. And I think the letterer was Atia Bidikar. So it's a continuing of a previous story, where Hank Hellmark, aka Flashlight, from their acclaimed Green Lantern run, in an alternate universe where lanterns, I'm reading this wrong. As the alternate world's lantern goes on a mad quest across the multiverse to find answers about what happened to his lost love, Morrison takes us through a bizarre tour of a world that rarely makes sense, but is grounded by an intense sense of love and loss. It was a great story, great art. It's hard to describe. You would just have to read it to understand. Another story that I absolutely loved, and I think this will be the last one I talk about because there are a lot of stories, so I'm just going to talk about this one that I was excited to see because it features a character that I think might have been introduced in the very first DC Pride anthology, and I read everything they're in when they show up now. It's called Subspace Transmission, written by Al Kaplan and the same artist as no, it actually has the colorer or the letterer from the last series. So Circuit Breaker, who is the new bearer of the Still Force, which I'm not going to explain the Still Force. It's complicated. It's connected to the Speed Force, and the Speed Force with the Flash and everything is already complicated. Was introduced in some other crossover comic called Lazarus Planet. But the character Circuit Breaker Jules Jordan teams up with non-binary Flash Chess Chambers, who I absolutely love, and essentially helps them, get used to their powers so that they can get out of this dimension that they got trapped in. And just anything with Chess Chambers in it, I'm excited for. And what is it? They're in a relationship with Aquaman's daughter, who eventually, of course, becomes Aquawoman. And I just want to see more of Aquaman's daughter in general, because in the main timeline, she's a kid, but they did this thing called Future State, where they looked into the future of the universe to kind of show, essentially just throw ideas out there to see what people like so that they could decide what they want to do with the future of the characters. And one of them was this absolutely amazing Aquaman comic where Andy Curry, Aquaman's daughter, was one of the main characters, and the second Aqualad, who is now Aquaman, was one of the main characters as well. And it was so good. It's only 2 issues, I believe, so I would definitely suggest reading that to anyone who's interested.
I only read the Swamp Thing Future State. It was Future State, or that was it, right?
Yeah, Future State. Yeah.
One.
I read that
Check
one.
that one out.
I read the Justice League one, and I read Future State Superwoman, which is also really good. But yeah, moving on to you.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter. I sent you a trailer for that, Aiara. Have you seen a trailer for Kraven the Hunter, Emmett?
I think I saw the ad spot for it, not like the full thing. Or maybe I don't remember.
That's enough.
I know I got the basic idea. Yeah.
So a lot of people have pointed out that it looks eerily similar to a DC character named Catman's origin story, and Catman actually was in the DC Pride anthology. And with a little bit I know about Catman, it definitely does in a lot of ways, and it just I don't understand how Sony is dropping the ball so hard with the most popular superhero on the planet. Because the idea of creating a Spider-Man universe where his villains get their own movie is not a bad idea. It's just where the hell is Spider-Man? What's the crutch of this whole universe that's just ruining it? I feel like the universe would be infinitely better if Spider-Man was there, because a lot of these characters are some of their origins are directly tied to Spider-Man. So having Spider-Man not be a central character in this universe just makes everything weird.
Is it? Do you think it's like a contract thing?
I don't
Like
think it is.
they don't have the rights, or
No, they have the
yeah.
rights. They can do it. I just don't know why. It
I
has to be
believe if
something. It has to be something.
it has to be because they would. I feel like they would do it if they, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
I
I
not
know.
that I think they're like super intelligent or anything, or maybe they are. I don't know, but like it's like I don't know. I feel like that's like I don't know. That's insane to me that you wouldn't have that
Yeah.
Spider-Man in there. I think it's um.
The
Also, I don't know. Like I oh sorry, go on.
And I was going to say the movie itself looks the action looks fun, but I don't know. It's one of those movies that I'm definitely going to just wait till it hits streaming to check it out.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like all these they keep making movies for villains. I guess like Venom that made sense because he's one of the more popular
Yeah,
Spider-Man villains.
but Craven,
it's
Morbius, like
Craven and Morbius.
the
It's like
the thing is,
okay, Craven. Yeah,
I
we
I,
just,
I feel like I have a good idea for a good movie for a character that you feel like shouldn't necessarily have their own movie. And
yeah,
that's Shocker. I think that they need to just get fun with these, and I think that they should make a heist movie starring Shocker, where he puts together a team of like low tier Spider-Man villains to help try and rob a bank under the nose of Spider-Man and try and like all these other master thieves in the Spider-Man universe like Black Cat and the Prowler. And I feel like that would be really fun. Like Ocean's 11, but it's Shocker and a bunch of like you can even have the Spot be one of the characters that he works with. I feel like that would be real funny.
that would be.
Like I feel like they could just get real creative with it. But also, I mentioned it I think a little bit last time when we were talking about Spider Verse, about how you know you don't even need a multiverse to have multiple Spider people in like isolated Spider-Man universe because you have the clones, you have Miles Morales, you have Silk, who is a someone who was bit by the exact same spider as Peter, like, and Spider Woman, who, like I said, didn't become a Spider Person in the same way that other Spider people did. So you have ways of having multiple Spider people within this universe as well, and I don't know. There has to be a reason. There has to be, like you said, there has to be a reason why they haven't. Because why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think maybe it's my. This is just going off the top of my head, but maybe it's like Tom Holland is currently playing Spider-Man, and they can't do anything with him. I guess he signed a contract with Marvel or
Yeah,
something, and they maybe part of the contract is that they can't have somebody else play a live action
yeah. That I wouldn't be
Spider-Man because there's
surprised.
yeah
Mm-hmm.
But if it was up to me, I think that if they could or if they can, which I want to assume that they can, make a Spider-Man movie in their own universe, despite MCU doing their thing with Spider-Man, that I think that they should bring back Andrew Garfield and like continue him as that universe of Spider-Man. I feel like they could just capitalize on the fact that people have come around to him as Spider-Man, and even though a lot of people don't like those movies, they can still recognize he was a pretty damn good Spider-Man, and he
yeah.
with the I personally like both of those movies. The first one more than the second one, but I understand why people don't like them. For me, it's
Yeah, I wasn't. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say for me, it's really the characters that really you know drive those films for me. Like I like his Peter, I like Gwen in that movie. The villains tend to be hit or miss in those movies.
Yeah,
Mostly miss.
I wasn't huge on the movies, but I think he pretty much like everyone else, he kind of won me over
Yeah,
with was it Far From No Way Home,
yeah.
right?
No Way Home.
That was okay. Gotcha. Sorry, I get the titles
Understandable.
of them mixed up. That was a weird naming device they had
Yeah, the whole
for
home thing.
having each one home.
They
I
really
don't get
stuck
it.
to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I think they should just call the next series or like trilogy or whatever they do Spectacular Spider-Man. 1, 2, 3. Nothing fancy.
yeah,
Mm.
that'd be nice.
Um, yeah. Moving on from that. Have you seen a trailer for a movie called The Challengers, Emmett? Or
That sounds so familiar. I might.
it's a
have.
movie with Zendaya and it's about tennis.
No.
So
Never mind that.
you see the trailer, right? Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it.
So
I've seen it. I'm getting tired of seeing it actually.
yeah. So we're all watching this movie for the plot, right? Um, and by plot I mean Zendaya is gorgeous. um, I'm not gonna lie. What pulled me into that trailer, I saw it in someone's story, was just the trailer started off like, you know how trailers nowadays have this to get people's attention. They show a bit of the best parts of the trailer at the beginning, and then they show the title card, and then get into the trailer. I saw it like that in someone's story, and it just started off with like her just in this bedroom with these two dudes and kissing both of them, and I was like, wait, what? What is this movie? So I clicked on it, and as I got deeper into the trailer, I was like, oh wait, this actually looks pretty good. It's essentially a love triangle between these three tennis players. She's a tennis player, and she gets injured, and she ends up marrying one of them, and there's still this weird love triangle going on between them. It looks like a fun movie. I might check it out. I'm probably gonna check it out, honestly. Um, for the plot, for the plot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at Netflix's To Dumb event, they showed some images of the main cast of the live action Avatar. And have you seen them, Emmett? Because if not, I could just send them real quick.
I've seen a few of them, but yeah, if you could send them because I haven't. I know. I remember. I forget that the guy who's playing the
Sokka?
Fire Lord.
Oh, Fire Lord. Yeah. Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah, Daniel Day Kim. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great. I think he's also voiced some characters in the show. I can't remember who he's voiced though.
Makes sense.
All right, let me look it up real quick.
And who's the guy who? Yeah, I guess they have another person playing a cabbage guy or something. It's from what I remember, it's like some comedian that I recognized.
So yeah, some people have said that it kind of looks AI generated, and it kind of does. One of the many unfortunate results of AI is that we sometimes second guess things and have to look at it a little bit longer before deciding if it's AI or not.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things. When I saw it, I was just like, "Is this real?" And it is. And I mean, they look like the characters from the show. Which we want, but do we need this? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about this. It was years ago when it was like announced. It's so bizarre that it's still. I forgot all about it almost.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Hopefully it's good. But
Yeah.
So let's not forget though, the original creators left this project due to creative differences.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And that's scary to hear.
very scary.
That it's might have been a blessing in disguise because I feel like that might have pushed them to like create their own kind of like studio now because now they're coming out with like their new stuff.
Yeah, Avatar Studios.
I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with it, where they kind of got more motivated to like, okay, let's make if they're gonna try to do another thing with our property, let's do something to like combat that creatively.
Yeah, stuff that I'm most excited about from Avatar Studios is just animated adaptations of some of the novels.
Yeah.
Because there's
is that happening?
Yeah, so apparently they're gonna be adapting the Kyoshi novel, which Avatar Kyoshi story is very interesting. I haven't read it myself, but I've
heard part of it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it, and her story sounds very interesting. But also there's one that I don't think there's a book about it, or actually no, I think there might be. But Avatar Korok is the Avatar after or just before Kyoshi. And he's like a waterbending avatar. And his story is very interesting because
was he the one that had his lover was like eaten by a soul creature thing?
Yes.
Or
that is him. So he was seen as like in the show they talk about how he was this very like easygoing, fun-loving avatar. And a lot of people thought that he was lazy and that he just wasn't doing his job, but behind the scenes he was actually holding back hordes of evil spirits from entering the like human realm and like destroying it. And people didn't know that. And he would essentially, I think he would like enter the avatar state for like hours at a time, like days, and fight them back. Wow. And that actually shortened his lifespan. But the reason, and another very interesting part of the story, that's not the end of it. The reason that happens because the avatar just before him, Avatar Yang Chen, she was an airbending avatar. We've seen her in the show before. She was one of the avatars I think that told Aang, "You got to kill the Fire Lord, my guy." she is the reason why he has to do that, because she wasn't performing her avatar duties the way she should have. The avatar is supposed to be the bridge between both the spirit world and, you know, the human world. She clearly chose the side, and it was the humans, and she was constantly beating, like, essentially abusing spirits in a lot of ways. And that caused the creation of a lot of evil spirits, because, and we've had this conversation before. I'm gonna go on a bit of we're gonna go on a bit of Avatar tangent. Uh, where she beat back a bunch of evil spirits, regular spirits, and they turned evil, and because of that, after she died, the Avatar after her has to deal with her mistake, and I think that's a very interesting story that I would like to see animated. But what I was gonna mention about evil spirits is that I like Korra. It's not perfect. I like Korra though. The one thing I don't like about Korra though is a thing that people tend to agree is the best part of Korra, and that's Avatar 1 and those two episodes that talk about the very first Avatar.
Yeah.
Here's why I don't like it. I think it's two of the best episodes of that entire series, but I don't like what it does for the lore of the series. And the reason being is that the first time we see evil spirit in Avatar, it's that panda, and it's shown that evil spirits are created due to strong emotions, due to anger,
Right.
stuff like that. It's like a person in real life just becoming a horrible person because of things that happen to them in their life. Um, in Korra, they suggest that evil spirits are just created because this spirit, not Unalak, Unalak was her uncle. Vatu is just this evil spirit that represents all of darkness and evil in the world, and he is the reason that evil spirits exist. And that Rava is the opposite of that. She's light. She's the reason good exists, or whatever. And I don't like that, because the entire show talks about the Avatar being balanced. And literally
Right.
in this very season, in this episode, in that area where the two spirit portals are, they zoom out and show it a lot. It's literally shaped like a yin yang symbol. And the whole idea of that is that light and dark are supposed to exist together. But, you know, in some ideologies, balance is the complete destruction of dark. And Avatar, for me, has never been that. They've always shown that these things have to coexist. But then in Korra, they said, nope, you have to destroy darkness, and that there are these two beings that represent light and dark. Where I wish it was more nuanced, and that it was more so maybe they both are just regular spirits that, like, are leaders in this, you know, the spirit world, and one of them is more, you know, who is more rebellious and wants to fight back against the humans, where the other one wants to make peace against the humans. And he creates evil spirits through anger rather than literally having these darkness powers that turn spirits evil. I just felt like it made it two-dimensional where it was more three-dimensional before. Let me stop that tangent there, because we can talk about Avatar all day. At the Tadum event, they also showed live action One Piece. They showed a trailer. It looks weird. It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look good either. And to me, this is the worst anime ever to try and adapt into live action, because all the character designs are just too wacky
Yeah.
to
It's like trying
to properly adapt.
It's like trying to do a JoJo live action.
Well, JoJo's different because they're all normal people for the most part,
Yeah.
and they've done it, and they've been okay. They haven't been great.
I've never seen One Piece before, but just based on like what I know, like that, I would never think it would work as a
Yeah, it's the
as a
weirdest
live
one.
action thing.
Like,
Yeah.
there's literally only one, maybe two anime that I'm like, I genuinely do want to see this adapt in live action, and one is Dragon Ball, and most people want that because it would be fun. And Dragon Ball is a series that is just like, it doesn't have the deepest story ever, like, and it's just a story about martial arts, especially like the original Dragon Ball before, you know, they started going to space and stuff. It was like just about martial arts, and that could be good. But most anime, none of them need it, but definitely
Yeah.
most of them don't need it. Like Dragon Ball doesn't need it. I kind of just want it. But most other things don't need it. Naruto is another one that I think could be done in live action to be interesting. But again, none of them absolutely need it. And One Piece, just why? You shouldn't do that. But
I find it so weird that like I don't know, we're kind of like in a culture where like it's not like fully valid or fully told unless it's like live action.
exactly,
You know what I mean?
it
Yeah.
sucks.
Like
that-
everything leaves a live action adaptation.
It's-
like, not really.
it's strange. And you know, it is very weird. Like, I think my mother's gotten out of this, and actually, it was yesterday that I realized, oh, she's definitely gotten out of this. Where she always saw cartoons as a childish thing. She never like judged me or my brothers for watching cartoons or anything. Like, she didn't care. It was just always a thing that she was never too interested in. But then randomly, I don't know why, she went and saw Spider-Verse, and it's not a movie I would have ever thought she was interested in going to go see. She went to go see Mario with me and my siblings, but that was more because it was a family thing, more so than because it was a movie she was interested in, and she had a good time. But she went out of her way herself to just go see Spider-Verse. And I was playing the game last night, and she came up to me, and I paused it, and she was like, "Yeah, I went to go see Spider-Man. I liked it a lot. I'm mad that it ended on a cliffhanger. Like, she was upset because she didn't know it was a part one, but she liked it." And I'm like, people see it as a childish thing, or that, it can't be as good as live action. But all it takes is one good animated movie for a person to go, "Oh, I'm so wrong. I'm so wrong." And it's also a thing where they think that they can only be for kids, and it's like, I don't think you've really seen anime, because I don't think children should be watching Berserk.
Yeah.
I don't think children should be like, and then you can even I don't children definitely shouldn't be watching Invincible. Um, I was gonna use The Boys, but The Boys is live action. But even then, that's comic book, and some people might even say that comic book movies in general should be for kids. The Boys is not for kids. um, but yeah, speaking of animation, I went to see Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and I left that movie just thinking, why don't they just make another fully animated Transformers movie? Because I recently watched some reaction YouTubers called Razzle react to the '80s animated Transformers movie, which I'm gonna watch it soon, because just watching them watch it, it was real fun. Um, and in animation, there would be no excuse to like have the Transformers be cars for most of the movie because of the CGI budget, because the full movie would be CGI, so they can just be robots, and you can have the movie be mostly about robots. In fact, I think Avatar is a good example. If they want to keep with the super realistic like CGI, which I don't think they need to if they were to make a fully animated Transformers movie, but if they wanted to, they could pull an Avatar, which is this photorealistic thing where all the characters are CG, like, aliens, and just have it take place like in space or whatever. And
Right.
you can still have that level of realism, but have it be fully animated and have there be little to no humans. Maybe a few. Like, Transformers from the beginning have always had humans in it, so it's understandable you might want a few humans. But I just want a Transformer movie that's mostly Transformers. But also,
Yeah.
do either of you care if I give a spoiler for like an end credit?
Nah.
Nah.
So they teased a crossover with G.I. Joe in this movie.
Interesting.
It was really weird.
Oh.
I should actually just say this movie was fun. Like, it wasn't great. It had some really fun action. There was this scene where Bumblebee, he died essentially, but he came back to life, and he returns, and there's this airplane transformer that's just dropping him off to where the other transformers are fighting, and they start playing LL Cool J, Mama's Gonna Knock You Out, or Mama Said Knock You Out, as he jumps off the plane and starts shooting a bunch of Transformers. It's cool as hell. The action's real fun. But story-wise, it's whatever. But, that's most Transformers movies. It's not a movie that I'm interested in seeing again. It's kind of disappointing because the last Transformers movie was genuinely good. Bumblebee was actually a good movie. And I was
That's what I want to check out.
I was expecting this one to be on par with Bumblebee, but it wasn't. But like I said, this G.I. Joe crossover is weird. And then not too long after, I realized, oh, this was planned, because they're also making a G.I. Joe crossover comic with Transformers. Not just a comic, a whole universe. By the creator of The Walking Dead and Invincible, Robert Kirkman.
Interesting.
Really?
So this is definitely a thing that they've been planning for a while.
Okay.
And it's not a bad idea. It sounds fun. Just these 80s, cartoon characters, interacting with each other. That sounds fun. But I hope this results in a good G.I. Joe movie, because I also like G.I. Joe. Despite my young age, I actually did watch some Transformers and G.I. Joe when I was a kid. And I enjoyed them. And, naturally I also watched the live action movies too. When I was a kid, I liked them. And I still find them fun because of the nostalgia now. But they're not great. And I would love to see some good ones. Some genuinely good ones. But one last thing, and then we'll finally get into the writer strikes. I know we're an hour and 9 minutes in, and we haven't gotten there yet, Emmett. But Secret Invasion, Marvel show starring Nick Fury on MCU.
Boy.
I'm not gonna watch it. I was going to. I was going to watch the movie. I meant the show. The reason I'm not going to watch it is because they use AI art in their opening credits.
Yeah.
And they say it's to make it. They say it's to make it look weird and eerie to fit the themes of the show with the scrolls that transform into people and whatever. But
Sure.
they could have done the exact same. They could have done that with just a regular artist, and it could have been probably done, or not probably. It could have been done better. like,
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't buy that excuse.
Yeah, it's a very poor excuse. And what was I gonna say? Someone mentioned how they mentioned something that I never thought of about how Disney specifically has been using AI technology and other things, but we kind of just haven't noticed or didn't care because of the way they're using it, and they use it for what do they call it? That face replacement stuff. It's a specific term for it. I forget what it's called.
Oh, if you said face for like
deep fakes.
Kind of,
there we go.
Yeah.
Deep fakes. Like deep fakes use a bit of AI technology, and they've slowly been used in other stuff like Star Wars. And I feel like we either didn't realize they were using AI technology or didn't think about it. And I feel like they've been slowly seeing people kind of like that stuff and be like, you know what, it's time to just go full in and finally do it. And it's just it's sad to see. And in those cases like with Star Wars, most of the time I honestly don't like CGI Luke Skywalker. I think they're gonna want to. I can tell they're about to start making more stories with Luke, and I want them to. But if they do that, I think they should just recast him. Like, Mark Hamill's old. Hire someone else.
Even Mark Hamill's on board with them.
Yeah, like first and foremost, if you make a show where Luke is one of the main characters, Mark Hamill's going to be there every step of the way. He is. He loves that character. He loves Star Wars. So just recast him. It's the same thing with the dude that plays. Like, first off, I like Solo. Solo is a good movie. It gets a bad rep. It is a genuinely good movie. And the Alden Ehrenreich, I think his name is pronounced, who plays Han Solo in that movie, he's good. And Harrison Ford could care less about the character. Let that man be Han Solo.
I haven't seen that Solo movie, but I'd seen him in a Coen Brothers film, and I thought he was excellent. So that was the main reason I wanted to see it. But then I found out that Phil Lloyd and Chris Miller, or I think that's their names, the guys who did this.
Chris Lloyd and Phil Miller. Yeah.
Yeah, they were kicked off the project or left or something like that.
Yeah, they did.
I lost interest because I was like, damn, I kind of wanted. I mean, they probably would have made it a bit goofier, or maybe that's not the direction they wanted. But I would have liked to have seen what that would have turned out to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll see it at some point, but I was just a little disappointed that we won't get that. But who knows? Maybe their vision would have been bad anyway.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because actually there's something I meant to say earlier that I completely forgot to say. So right before we hop into Red Strike, I just want to say you talking about Andor, and you talk about how that was the first Star Wars thing that you got into, and like how it's one of your favorite shows in the past 5 years. I love Andor too. It's real good. Part of what makes it so good is that it's them doing something that both Star Wars and Marvel need to do more often, which is this is a whole universe. This is a galaxy far, far away. A whole galaxy. It's so big. There's so much space. There's so much things to do, and I feel like The Mandalorian was a step towards just hopping into different genres and doing different things, and not just sticking with the action comedy thing that they've been doing for the past 9 films, and actually touching different genres within this universe of characters. And I feel like Andor did that. And there's space to tell these very, very different stories while still having it take place in the same universe, and not necessarily having everything connect, because it doesn't need to. And not everything's going to connect in this big universe. Some things are going to be really isolated. Granted, Andor is connected to, everything,
Yeah, it's just like behind the curtain.
It's behind the curtain, and it touches on a different part of the war, the rebellion that is, unfortunately, in real life and, in war, there are people who have to do horrible things to win the war. And that's the sad truth. And that's what Andor touches on.
Yeah, Andor's interesting too, because I was doing a little bit more research, and I was kind of discovering that a lot of it, I mean, it's really kind of not one for one, but there's a lot of similarities between the rise of the Third Reich in like Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
And
that's the
like
biggest
what they were trying to
inspiration.
do with the Empire. This.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
exactly.
biggest
Yeah, and
inspiration
it's
for the Empire. They're Nazis.
yeah, exactly. And it also it's weird because like beforehand I had kind of like a weird thing in my head where I thought that like I felt like I don't how many years passed between the or like canonically in the movies between the prequels and the original trilogy. It was like what
18 years.
18. Yeah, to me I always thought like, oh, that's a bit short for like an entire empire to like take over. But now that I think about it, after doing some research like that, that's actually like a plenty of time. That's based on like that's around the same time the Nazi Party like took over.
Yeah.
And plenty of other like dictatorships or like colonization stuff like that. All they need is like a few years.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily need to be that competent either.
There's some like inconsistencies in the story due to the fact that it wasn't necessarily planned that he would do a prequel. Like things like the whole Clone War seems like a thing that would have happened like 50 years earlier rather than 18 years earlier, but like in the grand scheme of things, they make it make sense.
Yeah, but like that's I was saying, like that kind of type of stuff, like people rise to power and then lose power in a very short period of time in real life. So it's not unimaginable.
Yeah.
Like just to make it a comparison. Yeah. So
yeah, like
just after watching Andor, that was the first time I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense actually.
The only reason we haven't talked, actually no, I think we were talking about Andor before my old co-host had left. So he was still on when we were talking about Andor all the way up until the finale. So we actually had some pretty in-depth conversations about Andor. But we've been meaning to do it. I just feel like we keep forgetting. But we have to do a full Star Wars episode. And the more I think about it, because we've been waiting so long, like more news keeps coming out. So it's gonna have to be split into like two-hour episodes, honestly, because there's just so much Star Wars stuff that's been come out over the past, like information, news about new stuff, and a couple shows and movies that we need to talk about that it's going to take a long time, but we'll get to that. Let's get into the thing that we've been waiting to talk about. The writer's strike. So before I let you go, I did some research myself. This is something that I've been avoiding talking about because I just didn't know a lot about it, and I didn't want to talk about something I didn't really know a lot about, or didn't even know a little bit about. So I did some research finally in preparation for this episode, and I'm just going to say what I know from some articles and YouTube videos I watched. So from what I understand, the situation, you can correct me if I'm wrong when I'm done, Emmet, is like streaming is at the heart of the issue that's happening right now. At first, streaming created a ton more jobs and got a lot of writers their first gigs, and things were good, but some inherent problems that came with it was that episode counts not slowly, but pretty steadily shrunk. So it made living as a writer harder because you would be working on less projects, or you had to work on more projects per year to earn a living, because things were just you were working on like 8 episodes instead of 26 episodes or something like that.
Now it's 6.
Yeah, it gets shorter every year, and and the influence that writers have on a project overall, and the production process have just decreased over the years. So not only are they writing less episodes, but they're involved in less of the production overall. And that leads, like I said, to issues of writers being employed for fewer weeks and therefore making less money. And there's also a problem with residuals. The money that writers make from reruns of the project that they worked on being aired on TV and stuff like that. When it comes to people going back and rewatching shows and movies on streaming services, those checks come less frequently and they include way less money. Despite how many people are rewatching and watching these shows and movies for the first time. And that's all the information that I know and I have and understand. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the most important beats. I mean, I think the main thing too is that there's a kind of a misconception when it comes to like writing for television, that it's just kind of like, okay, you have the 3 months that you do the writer's room and then you write the episodes and then that's it. But writing is that's a kind of a year-long process through, and it includes going into like production, stuff like that. Like writing process still goes on while filming. A lot of times, like decisions and stuff like that need to be made, so they'll have on-set writers, and a lot of times that's how like a lot of like the big time like showrunners that we know today. Like I know the guy who is running like House of the Dragon. Like he was just like an assistant writer that was on set there to make little changes for anything if anything like went wrong, and so they could write it in because they would know the characters well enough and the world well enough to like make it fit.
Yeah, it also just helps make your writing better when you actually get to see what's going on and actually get to know the actors that are playing these characters and actually speaking the words that you wrote, and just making just talking to all the people that are making what you wrote down happen, physically, and that just helps inform your writing for that project in the future.
Exactly, yeah, and like sometimes I think the best example is like Breaking Bad or something, where like there's like several characters that were meant to be a one-off or something, like Jesse, but then during the decision that was fully made during filming to keep the character as a mainstay. It wasn't so like that completely changed the whole writing process, stuff like that. And that was because the writers were on set, working with the actor.
And now that's being scaled back, and writers are on set less and less.
Oh, less and less, yeah. And even the ones that have like producer credits are not allowed to be on set as much, and you don't have like assistant ones. Like at best, you have like the showrunner on set.
Yeah.
Which is now happening with the new season of Andor, which luckily they finished their writing, like the whole writing thing. So it's not going to be fully affected. And
it was actually meant to be more than 2 seasons. It actually got scaled back to just being 2 seasons, and I think
it's only going to be 2 seasons.
Yeah, so the next season is going to take place over the course of several years. But I think each one of the years that this story, or the like time periods this story is going to take place in, we're supposed to be like individual seasons in their own right.
Darn, I thought there was still planned to be 3.
Maybe it is 3, but it was supposed to be more than 3. But I just know it was supposed to be it was supposed to be more seasons than it is.
Yeah, I guess like not a lot of people watched it. That's what it seems to be. Yeah, it's just but like will the writer's strike might still affect it because they won't really have like writers on set, even though the showrunner said that he will be on set not as a writer, wink wink, so I guess he kind of will be there helping.
Yeah, it's it's becoming more of a machine that they just want you writers do their job, they're out, let's get into production, okay, let's get in pre-production. They just want it to run like a smooth machine rather than having it be this fluid process that it should be. That really lends itself to creative thinking.
Yeah, and it's weird because I've been seeing this like bizarre sentiment online where it's like some people are saying, and I'm sure they're probably they're not really thinking fully when they say this, but they're like, oh, writing's not that good nowadays anyway. Why don't they just use AI?
God.
Personally, a lot of the writing that isn't that polished up and stuff like that in shows nowadays is because of the problems that they're striking against. So, this is the whole strike is not just to like make sure that they get paid, but also like it will hopefully improve, the quality of writing. And also it's like I've never understood the sentiment of like just replace people's job, because with AI and like, that could be your job someday too.
Exactly.
At any point.
The thing about like AI for me is, I feel like, it's easy with a lot of problems to just paint it as black and white for the sake of, stopping a bad thing from happening. But the reality is it's not going to go anywhere. That's the unfortunate part. And it should be a tool. It should not be a replacement.
Oh, yeah.
There are ways for AI to help us and not just fully replace us. Because the reality is, first off, the AI that's used to write and create, art is actively stealing from people to do so. And that's just unethical on, all fronts. And that's just wrong. We shouldn't let that happen. But for a person to use AI themselves to help as a tool rather than a crutch, or to just straight up do the work for them, is a completely different thing. And I think that's something that I would hope that we hopefully get there at some point, where people realize instead of having this steal from people and then replace those people, have it help people in small ways. Not even huge ones, smaller ones, because there are things in like especially animation where AI I've heard is extremely useful. Like there is AI used in Spider-Verse, and some people got up in arms about it, and I looked into it and was like, the way it's being used isn't like to completely get rid of artists. It's to do very, very tedious things that animators literally don't want to do. Like not to just straight up replace them, but to do these very small, minute, and tedious things that would just take up too much time.
Right.
It's a tool. It should be used as one.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like it's all I don't have any interest in like I do. It's kind of like maybe like for once or twice it might be interesting to see what a computer could write or what a computer can create.
That's the weird thing because it gets in your mind of like it would be interesting to see, but that's it's a tough line to toe.
Yeah, but like I don't need. It's not more interesting I think than what create.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm watching a bad show or something, like I don't know, I have more respect for the creatives, even if I don't like respect the decisions that they're making, or I mean not respect. I don't like some of the decisions that are being made or whatever like that.
You respect
that's
the effort.
more. That's more interesting to me that I could like look into as opposed to like a machine doing it. Like you were mentioning the Secret Invasion thing, and I was like, the concept of like AI generated opening sequence would be interesting to watch like on YouTube.
Yeah.
But like if I'm watching a show week to week with people in it. I want it to be done. It would be nice to see like something done by an actual like artist. That gives the show its own personality. Because I don't know, AI is kind of like, I guess you could say it has a personality, but it feels very.
Its personality is built on other people's personality.
Exactly, it's like a lack of personality. It's who's the
It's like Ko, the face stealer from Avatar that we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly. right. The Jason Bateman of artists. Yeah. And so I mean a lot of I was just saying earlier, like all the writers who are like you were saying, like have been on sets and stuff like that. Those are like the big mainstay, best showrunners that are around, and they have like a year-long experience of like writing and then being on set for these 24 episode things, which I think for a lot of writers and for people too, I think they like getting rid of like the episodes always TV shows having to be like 20 episodes or whatever a season is creatively freeing.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, like having 6 or 8 episodes has actually in some ways improved some TV shows.
Oh yeah.
Because you have like, you have more of a condensed way of like telling a story, and you can do it in less time.
There was
a
show I was thinking about earlier because I was watching somebody react to it, and I'd seen it like twice at this point. Which is Castlevania, which is the first season's 4 episodes. I think the second season's 8 episodes. The third season's 12 episodes, and the last season is like, I don't know, 14. I don't know, something like that. And they keep adding more episodes, and it ultimately actually hurts the series. I'm like, every season could have had 2 or 3 less episodes, and it would have been better.
Yeah, I saw the first season of that, and I was kind of like, it was a little odd because it was like there was so few of them.
Yeah, it was basically a movie.
Yeah, that's basically. It was. I think it was shorter than a movie would be.
It was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. But yeah, it's freeing. But I guess the one other thing that kind of like this doesn't necessarily directly relate to the writer's strike because I don't think it's being touched on, but I find it interesting when it comes to streaming and like the episode count that we were talking about is like the length of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Where in TV, they had to be a certain length plus commercial break or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So like an episode would be like 25 minutes or 45 minutes. And now they could be pretty much anything. I've seen episodes be an hour long.
You no longer have to
be 2 hours long.
Yeah. You also don't have to work around ad breaks. Like you don't have to
exactly.
have like like you sometimes you have to have a very interesting stinger at the end of like just before an ad break so that people will actually come back and continue to watch, and they don't have to do that
Oh
anymore.
yeah. Yeah, which I think is ultimately for the best. I mean, I was watching one of the later seasons of Lost. And it was like every like 7 minutes or so they had to have like something so
Yeah, I mean
shocking. So you
that
tune into the
that
next. I'm like,
that's a show that was heavily like affected by a writer strike.
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I should have touched on that actually a moment ago.
I've never watched it
Really
myself.
quickly, yeah, that and Heroes
Oh
were
yeah,
affected,
I watched
but
Heroes.
yeah, I haven't. That's the one I haven't seen, but I heard everyone saying that it was affected by it. I'm not sure if that meant the quality or just like how when it came out, but I just heard that it was affected. Really quickly though, on the length, I was just going to say that I do think that the it is kind of limiting in a way with the length because I feel like TV shows nowadays kind of they have a lack of pacing that
Yeah.
Yeah, like
the
Castlevania
cable shows.
pacing season 3
Mhm.
is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like if episodes can be however length you want it to be, or how have as many episodes as you want it to be, and there's no like editor in the room to like cut it out, or say that okay, we need to make this time slot. The shows kind of lose their pace, or they have scenes that don't really need to be there.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
part of what
creatives,
makes Arcane so amazing that it manages to be so well
yeah,
paced.
oh, absolutely, and I think the length is mostly consistent too. It's
Yeah,
it's well paced
yeah,
and
it's like
everything
40
feels
minutes every
necessary.
episode,
Yeah,
which is
I think
like you
it's
said. That's another thing when you talk about lengths of things. Arcane is a strange length for an animated show. Animated shows tend to be 30 minutes and no longer.
mhm,
This is a 40-minute animated series, which is very strange.
yeah, and they managed to make it work really well. Um, yeah, I think it's the time like it's kind of affected like comedies as well. But I was watching like Arrested Development, the first 3 seasons that were on cable. They had a very punchy pace because they had to fit it into like a half hour.
Mm.
Um, and then when it went on to streaming, the jokes just didn't really land at all because I felt like the writers were given as long as they wanted to. They have entire scenes where like to get to the joke, there's like other like little bits in there that like I feel like if you they could have cut down really quickly and made it a lot more better. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent
Yeah,
away from the writer's
no,
strike,
it it,
but
it it fit. But
yeah.
I wanted to talk about how like were you able to say something, Ira?
Oh no, I was just saying I was agreeing that it was fitting.
Oh yeah, so like something we have to like touch on is that how writers, especially with the way streaming works, they aren't always working. Like they find themselves in between projects, and residuals help kind of hold a lot of writers over in that in between time, and with them being significantly decreased at the way they are, in streaming, it really hurts them and puts people in really tough situations.
Hmm.
And that's one of the many things that this is trying to combat.
Mhm.
I also want to
Yeah,
talk about
definitely.
how streaming has affected the animation industry. Because
Yes.
late last year, there was what is it? Dang, why am I forgetting the hashtag? New Deal for animation was trending, and despite the fact that animation carried the entertainment industry over the pandemic due to the fact that it could be made remotely. Um, and shows like Arcane came out 2021, and a lot of animated shows did amazing over that time. Animators just aren't being paid nearly as much as their live action counterparts, and the working conditions are horrendous. Like we just talked about Spider Verse, and people being expected to redo finished work on a regular basis, and work overtime to do so. Um, crunch is a thing. Like you said, crunch is a turtle. And they also don't get much from residuals. Uh, and what was it? Not too long ago, the HBO canned a lot of animated series for a tax write off, along with some live action stuff too. But focusing on animation right now, and yeah, uh, streaming is great for the viewer in a lot of ways, but for the creative, it just hasn't been great right like recently.
It's been. Yeah, I think it's kind of like it was like creatively freeing at first
Yeah,
for a lot of creatives, and but now it's kind of you've seen kind of
They're
the other
being
end where
taken advantage of now.
yeah, pretty much because there's just less. I feel like
Less
they
rules.
finally had the rules in place
Yeah.
after the writer's strike, like about 2000. I think it was 2008 or so. Um, Finally, kind of they were in a good place, but now it's kind of like a restart.
Yeah.
You know,
They found the gray area now that it's a completely different section of the entertainment industry. They are starting to play with the rules and trying to, move the goalpost.
yeah, it's interesting. Too that like in 2008 and stuff like that after the writer's strike, and I know that I think that it's important to I mean, the most important is like people's jobs and livelihoods, but the way that TV was affected too um, is interesting as well because it became that's like when a lot of like reality TV shows really took off
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't
Oh
get
yeah,
writers.
I did read
That
about
was
that.
the Kardashians and the what was the what was the one that like Donald Trump was doing the Apprentice.
Yeah,
That was called.
yeah,
Yeah, that was like a failing show until the writer's strike took off, and then it became like a mainstay. So I don't know if that like had really much influence in terms of like or his popular. I guess it must have. It must have had a lot of influence in terms of his popularity. So
oh yeah,
it's interesting that these things that may not seem that influential, like TV writers, whatever may or animators or whatever, they can really influence uh, our the world around us over time. Um, because like it definitely influenced like his political career and show. So it definitely influenced the political landscape of the U.S. today. Um, we're all kind of affected by these things. If that makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah.
So I know you were talking about animators. If you wanted to hop back onto that, I didn't want to say that real quickly.
That's honestly all I really have to say about it. If you have anything to say, Aiara.
No, y'all pretty much said it all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
this went on for a while. We do have a whole video game section. If you're like have something to do and have to go in it, that's fine. But if you're able to stay
no,
on,
I'll stick around for some video.
Okay.
You know what? I don't have that much time to play games as much anymore, I've been playing the recent God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, really?
Playing through it. I'm not. Yeah, I played the fourth one. I haven't played the original three, but I played the
I love
God
those
of War
games.
2018, I think it was,
Hmm.
and I loved it. I was like, oh, I have to see what's going on now. What happens with the second one? I think I did. It's hard for me to say, but it's like the second one, or not the second one. I guess it's the fifth one is kind of improved on everything I loved about.
Oh
that,
yeah, it's
that initial game.
it's always great when a sequel just improves on every single thing. Like it's not a completely different game. It's just the same game, but better.
Yeah, it is, and also like the character work and stuff like that is really like impressive and stuff. For it, like I know that like video games and stuff like that we've seen with like the Uncharted movies. I mean games and the Last of Us
Hmm.
have like the potential for characters and stuff like that. But I think like I don't know with this one in particular, I feel like the usage of it kind of like flowing in between cutscene, but also like having character work throughout gameplay is like perfectly implemented.
And they do the same thing they did with the first game with this one, where it's there are no cuts. Yeah, it's single cut. It's just one single shot. There's some clever cuts.
They
like
break it a couple times. But,
there's some like it's meant to seem seamless, but technically there are
Yeah.
some cuts in there.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they'll like cleverly have like come up with a reason for the screen to fade to black, and like that's clearly a cut.
Oh yeah.
But it's meant
Like
to
when he-
seem
or-
seamless. Like it's faked in a lot of ways, but as long as it
It's meant to immerse you in a kind of
you're with
story.
them every step of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is it's interesting because that was the one thing I was kind of hesitant with this one, where I was kind of like since it's I feel like it's telling a bigger story
Oh, yeah.
cut between Kratos and then Atreus Atreides. I
Atreus.
forget. Atreus. Sorry. A few times. Like I feel like they didn't necessarily need to do that, but I feel like it's so far in the game it's been working, and I'm not too far. I'm about probably like maybe less than 1/4 through.
Yeah, I was recently looking through my trophies and I realized that I have like 90 something percent trophies on God of War Ragnarok, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot because the
Wow.
game came out so long ago and I had played it nonstop back when it first came out, and I realized, oh yeah, I forgot I played the shit out of that game, and I almost got all the trophies. And I wasn't even necessarily trying to do that on purpose. I just played so much of the game that I almost got all the trophies.
Yeah, it's hard not to like get kind of like stuck trying to do everything in the
Yeah,
in
and
the
they make
little
it a
like
lot easier
uh,
to find those damn ravens.
yeah,
Because in the
absolutely.
first one, finding the ravens was a pain, and I didn't do it. I didn't care to, but I didn't do it. I didn't because it's just some I just couldn't find. But I tried to find them in this game, and I actually got pretty close. I think I maybe missed only like five of like dozens.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah, I went on my way to like do all the side quests, try and complete like every little small thing that I could before I finally stopped playing that game. It's a really good game. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
to.
yeah. I also. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have to talk to you more about it. Just text you about it
Oh yeah.
because I didn't realize you were playing it. I actually have the art book for the game right next to me.
Oh really?
I
Oh,
actually
that's
recently
so cool.
bought the art book for the first Spider Verse. I have it in here as well. I haven't sat down and read it yet because I need to finish
Oh,
the.
I saw you. Yeah,
I posted it.
had a post on
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
want to finish reading the Ragnarok art book before I get around to reading that one, and I also pre-ordered the book for the second game. I love art books. I need to. I'm living with my mom right now, but she's about to move out, so as soon as that happens, I'm gonna buy a bookshelf because I'll have room for a bookshelf because I've just been splurging on books lately,
Mm.
especially art books. Um, but yeah, let's hop in video games. So I sent you a trailer for this really weird game that just randomly popped up on my like YouTube recommendations called Squirrel with a Gun, Aiara. So I'll have to send you this afterwards, Emmet. So Squirrel with a Gun is a sandbox game that focuses on exploration and shooting combat, where you play as a squirrel that uses a normal-sized gun to defend itself from random encounters with agents. Um, you can deflect melee attacks to disarm agents and use their guns against them. And you can also use the recoil of the gun to fly through the air and cross big gaps that you wouldn't be able to cross with your squirrel skills alone. This game is hilarious.
I just looked it up right now. Oh, this looks great.
Yeah, it just I just randomly saw this and I was like, what the hell is this? I just saw it like I think IGN posted it, so it popped up in like my notifications on my phone. I saw Squirrel with a Gun and I was like, I have to watch this.
It's just a regular sized gun too.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
regular sized gun. It's not like a squirrel sized gun.
No.
So absurd. I love it. It reminds me that it's funny that you bring this up because recently I've been playing, or a friend of mine has been playing the demo of Wizard with a Gun.
That sounds
For me,
hilarious.
it's hilarious,
Bro,
but
why am
also
I
it's a
imagining? No, go ahead.
game.
Go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah, Wizard with a Gun. It's like you would think it's like, oh, it's silly. This game is gorgeous.
I bet.
Like, it's so pretty,
Like
and it's
I'm sorry. I forget. I saw it on some podcast where they were talking about how it just makes me think of how in the Harry Potter world there are no real defenses against guns. So reality is like soldiers in the real world in Harry Potter could probably like actually destroy the wizards with guns.
yeah.
So when you say wizard with a gun, I'm just thinking of a wizard just walking around with a gun and just going and fighting other wizards, specifically in like Harry Potter type world where they have no real defense against the gun.
It's so absurd. It's just like things like I adding a gun to things like where places where a gun definitely does not belong is like peak comedy for
Yeah,
me.
that's funny. So I also sent you a trailer here for a game called Venture to the Vile. Another game that randomly popped up on my radar. It's a Metroidvania. That takes place in a 3D space where you traverse different layers. So it's a side scroller, but you can actually go forward and backwards into space, which is weird. And
Oh,
it's something that I've always wanted to see a game do, and there are games that have done it before, but this is the first time I've seen it done like this. So the description on the Steam page reads like this. What the hell is that? Did y'all hear that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, sorry, there was some weird like TV static type sound that just popped up. So the Steam page reads like this: the vial is taking over, transforming people, elements, and everything in it, everything it touches, into something ghastly and unrecognizable. Immerse yourself in a narrative quest while meeting a peculiar and memorable cast of characters while you search for your missing best friend Ella. Delve into a playful, sinister world riddled with mystery that unexpectedly evolves based on time of day or weather conditions. Gain new abilities to battle vicious enemies, transform more and more into the monster you're fighting against as the vial becomes all consuming. As you uncover the truth about the vial and the future becomes uncertain, you'll have to make a difficult decision. Should you embrace the next step in evolution or eradicate it? This game looks fun. I think this will be on Xbox, so I might check it out.
Nice.
Because, anything on Game Pass. I'd like to try and check it out.
Right, free game.
Basically. So The Expanse. Have either of you watched the show, The Expanse?
Mm-mm. Heard of it, though.
Heard of it. I think I checked the first episode out. Yeah. Wasn't too impressed, but I heard the books were good also.
Yeah, so I didn't know it was based on the book. So, a video game is being made about The Expanse by Telltale. But not just by Telltale. So I'm not necessarily interested in playing this game myself, but the fact that this game is being made by both Telltale, of Walking Dead fame, of course, and Deck 9 from Life is Strange is really cool. These two studios that are known for making these like story-focused games where the player makes a decision of how the narrative goes. The two biggest companies that do this, I would say, other than Quantic Dream, but those what's his name? Not Nick Cage, David Cage. Making a game together, that's very interesting. And
I didn't know Telltale was back.
Yeah, that's what I also want to talk about. It is great to see Telltale back. And they're working on a second season for The Wolf Among Us, and I'm so excited for that.
That I did hear about, but it took such a long time that I forgot about it.
I think they revealed I think it might be coming out next year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. This will be the first Telltale game that I play as it comes out, because every other Telltale game I've played after the fact.
Right.
I think the first Telltale game I played was Walking Dead Season 2. But yeah, Wolf Among Us, I actually recently started reading the comics that the Wolf Among Us is based off of, Fables.
Yeah, I did too, not too long ago.
Fables is good. Wolf Among Us, it was originally a canonical prequel to the comics, but eventually it started going its own direction. And I think the writer was originally working on it, but he's not working on season 2. So now it's its own thing. But it originally was like at the very least, the first season is a canonical prequel to the books, but everything after that is its own.
That's what I thought that the first game feels very canonical with the thing, but with the comics, interesting, because I think I actually prefer the game slightly over the comics, at least so far from what I've read, in terms of just like overall atmosphere and.
Yes, the atmosphere for sure.
They do more with like Bigby in terms of like having him have a past of being the big bad wolf, and stuff, and like having him have like an interesting friendship with the pig, which isn't. I don't want to spoil it or anything, but it isn't really touched on as much.
Yeah, it's not
in the comics, which is kind of disappointing.
There's a really good scene between Bluebeard and Bigby in the comics where they're like trying to like find a way to like frame this guy who's found out their secret, but he hasn't really found out their secret. He low-key thinks they're vampires. He like Bluebeard is like always trying to like be a tough guy and like trying to take over, and he's trying to like stand up to Bigby, and Bigby just really just puts him in his place and shows why he's the big bad wolf, and it's so good. It's a good comic. It's like I agree with you that the vibe of the game just it hits different, like the kind of like the like the noir aesthetic really fits it very well. And going into the comic, I was expecting more of that, and because it wasn't like that, I was a little bit disappointed. It's still good for what it is, but it's different than what I was expecting.
I heard it gets better too. I've read the first volume. I wasn't really
I think it recently.
I read the first 2 volumes actually. I wasn't that impressed, but what were you saying?
I think that recently it just like started continuing. Like I think it had stopped
for
a while.
They did. They stopped for years. It was like that was it. That was the end.
Yeah.
I remember even when they that happened when it ended. But even though I never read it, but yeah, they started again. I'm not sure if it's just for like a little run or if it's like continuing indefinitely. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So recently, two new VR slash AR headsets have been announced: the MetaQuest 3 and Apple Vision Pro. So
Mm,
something they both have in common are that they are super like slim. Um, they haven't quite reached the like pair of glasses size yet, but they are getting close to the size of like ski goggles, which is very interesting. Um, the MetaQuest 3 is about $500, and I've had a lot of fun with my brother's MetaQuest 2. So a much slimmer version of that is very appealing to me, but I think I'll wait for like a significant discount because I'm not like fiending for VR right now.
yeah.
But the Apple Vision Pro is $3,499. Um,
Ooh.
and the idea is novel and it looks really cool. It first like Apple they do a great job when it comes to like actual physical design. Like it looks cool, but
Mm,
and it looks like it's going to take some big steps in the advancement of like VR and AR tech, but it probably won't sell well. But it is
yeah.
called Apple Vision Pro. So they probably plan on making a cheaper model relatively soon, and either way, they'll make a cheaper model eventually. So, you know, this is just like their testing ground, really, and that's why it costs so much. Because this is gonna be a thing where a lot of tech reviewers, I'm gonna watch a lot of tech reviewers like play around with it. I don't think it comes out till next year. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of VR because it looks cool. And the VR games I have played have been fun. Unfortunately, like I would have a PlayStation VR if it was cordless, but unfortunately, PlayStation VR is not cordless. Um,
Aw.
and I don't want to play like after playing the Metal Quest 2, which is cordless. I don't ever want to play a VR headset with a cord. That just sounds uncomfortable.
Mm.
But just move things along. Well, if you guys don't have anything to say about this VR stuff,
Nope, not particularly. three
so
thousand dollars insane.
yeah, so I want to talk about that Nintendo Direct.
Yes, the direct,
So they showed they're remaking Super Mario RPG. Um,
which I am so excited for.
it's a game
So excited.
I've always heard about. Never played it personally. But it looks cool. It's not my speed necessarily. It's not a game I plan on playing it. But what do you think about it as a person who is excited for it?
So, everyone, well, Super Mario RPG is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Like turn-based specifically. I love that game to pieces. So to see it like getting a remake because it was in like because it was developed by Square Enix back when they were SquareSoft, the rights to it have been in like
Yeah,
this weird limbo for a really really long time. And I was just recently thinking before I saw the direct, I was like, why is Legend of the Seven Stars not on Switch Online's SNES emulator? And I guess this is why. It looks great. I'm excited. It seems like they've kept up really well with the humor while translating it to this new visual style. And I'm just super excited for this remake, man. Legend of the Seven Stars is a fantastic game.
yeah. They also announced that a new Peach solo game is coming, and speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Because we spoke this into existence when we
You
mentioned
certainly did.
Super Princess Peach in our last episode, and yeah, it looks like this game takes place on like a stage, like the stage of a play, and
Hmm.
I'm interested to see more of it. It's not coming out. They say it's not coming out till next year, and they also was it releasing the HD remaster of Luigi's Mansion
Dark Moon,
something Moon. Yeah, Dark Moon. I was gonna say Dark of the Moon. That's the name of a Transformers movie. Uh,
which is also very exciting because I love Dark Moon. It's the black sheep of the Luigi's Mansion
is that like the
series.
second game?
That's the second game, yeah.
Okay.
People did not really enjoy Dark Moon. I did. I liked it a lot. So it's exciting to play it again because my DS is starting to go up in flames. It's so old.
So this next thing was announced to like be coming to this console before, but this was the first time we actually seen it for Nintendo specifically, and that is the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume One.
Hmm.
It's gonna be on Nintendo Switch, and I'm gonna need you to play this. I
I
need you
will.
to
It's on my radar.
Me and you are probably gonna be playing the first Metal Gears at the same time because I already played two. I already played two, and I'm finishing up three. So this will be my
Mm,
first time playing the first one. So me and you will
mm.
probably be playing the first Metal Gears around the same time. So
Silly.
yeah, I'm excited for this. I love Metal Gear. It is literally my favorite video game series of all time. I
I
love
think
Metal Gear.
my favorite part about this them releasing it on Switch is that it comes with like a whole bunch of extra
Oh yeah,
content, like books and stuff. That's
and
super neat.
strategy guides.
Yeah, I love when they do that with like video game collections. It's my favorite.
Yeah. So they also showed off Penny's Big Breakaway, which is made by the Sonic Mania devs. And the level design definitely gives off a lot of Sonic vibes.
Hmm.
As the specifically the visual design with the kind of like checkered patterns all over the place. Um, it looks fun. I think it's a Switch exclusive. So it's a game I won't be playing for a while until the next Nintendo console comes out. Because Emmet, so that you know, I have gone so long without a Switch that I'm just like I have the money to get one, but I'm committed to just waiting till they release their next console. I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait
Might
till
as well
Nintendo
at this
releases their
point.
next console
Yeah.
because it's been so long and
Right.
they've got to be close. They're at the very least probably gonna announce it next year. I hope.
Yeah.
If not, announce it early next year or maybe late this year and release it sometime next year. I wouldn't be
What are
surprised.
they? Are they? Do they have a name for it yet?
No, we don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I just feel it. And a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people who are actually in the industry feel like it's a thing that might be coming soon. They also showed a remake of the second Star Ocean game. Um, and it looks very interesting. So it's pixel art characters mixed with 3D backgrounds, and I thought it was gonna be like a turn-based RPG, but no, it's a real-time action combat RPG. Despite what it looks like, which I was not expecting. And this is like another one of those art styles that I'm like, this would be good for an animated series. Like before, I was talking about how. So, tell me what you think about this idea, Emmett. But I was thinking, what if there was an animated series where that was like set up like a side-scrolling video game?
Mm,
I feel like that would be very interesting.
really be interesting.
There's this game
Yeah.
coming out that I can't remember the name of that is definitely heavily inspired by like Blade Runner. That's a side scroller that has some of the most detailed like animation I've ever seen in a side scroller. A pixel art side scroller specifically, and it has a mix of 3D in it as well. That I just can't remember the name of for the life of me right now. But
I'd love to see them actually.
Same.
Now that you put that in my
yeah,
brain,
now that's in your head. You're like, imagine it.
thinking about how it could like go and yeah,
Like low
imagine
key,
it kind of like the visual gags or like the
yeah.
yeah.
I'm like low key, like even like a game similar to something like the older Zelda games, like an isometric game that's an animated series. Just taking those old video game like art styles and the limitations within them and making it to a series. I feel like this would be really fun. Who knows? This might have to be something I just do myself.
Mm-hmm.
But they at the very end they revealed a brand new 2D Super Mario game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I'm not big on 2D Mario. You interested in 2D Mario? Aiara?
I was for a time, and then like New Super Mario Bros. U dropped, and then I just kind of like it's like it's the same. It's the same every time.
Yeah.
I love New Super Mario Bros. I love New Super Mario Bros. Wii, like childhood memories. But I think as I got older, I'm just like it's the same.
Yeah.
I've never really been big into Mario anyway, besides Mario RPG. So it's like
All 2D Marios after
I
like
think
the.
they just.
Who were you gonna say?
Oh,
Emmett?
sorry, I think they just need to. I think their thing is just to release one for each like generation of not console but like
Yeah,
people.
like it's
essentially.
2D Mario because
Where
they
it's like-
released Odyssey
Yeah.
came out like early on in the Switch life cycle, and I think this is the first new 2D Mario released on the Switch.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It does make sense that they're like, okay, we got to give the new generation a new 2D Mario, and just Mario fans in general. Some new things that they've added is well, you can Princess Daisy is playable in a 2D Mario specifically. She hasn't been playable in 2D Mario before. There's an elephant fruit, and Mario can turn into an elephant. And there are these, and there's always been the joke that Mario is actually dead, and he's on drugs, and like the mushrooms are drugs, and that's why he's in this world with this giant dragon turtle. That's always been a joke, but now there are literally mushrooms in this game. Well, not mushrooms; they're more like flowers. I think they're called like wonder flowers that literally send you on like an acid trip. and the pipes literally start wiggling, and a bunch of weird stuff starts happening, and
Yeah.
so like the jokes are just gonna be stronger now, because now they've kind of just confirmed everybody's suspicions.
Right.
But yeah, it looks cool. Not necessarily again my speed, but I'm happy for Mario fans.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Mario movie, Emmett?
No, I have not. I got the general idea. I haven't saw it.
So I actually recorded a Street Fighter 6 section with a friend of mine. So we're not going to talk about that because I already talked about it. All right, moving on to Street Fighter 6. I actually have a guest for this section. My friend Craig, who also
Hello.
streams at SVG Gaming or SGV Gaming.
Yes, it's me. Hello. It's your boy Craig, otherwise known as they said, SGV Gaming, SGV Swag. I mostly stream a lot of fighting games and I play a lot of fighting games. So if you want to check my stuff out, I'm on Twitch and Instagram at SGV Gaming.
Yeah, when I knew I was going to do a Street Fighter segment, I had to get you on.
Yeah, man, you know me. When it comes to Street Fighter, just anything fighting game in general, I got a whole pamphlet for the stuff I want to talk about.
Oh yeah, so me and you finally got to play together. I came over your house not too long ago and we played a little bit. It was finally good to play with a friend. I've just been playing online using Ken. Like I told you, I haven't been using literally any other character except for Ken. When I was playing with you, it was the first time I started actually using other characters and just mess around a little bit, seeing how they play. And I think I tried everybody except for some of the older characters that I've just played before. Like I don't think I tried out Cammy, but or Zangief. But yeah, it was a good time. Like I said, Ken is my main. I've been playing him because I just want to get good. And playing you, I realize I'm better than I think I am. Because I'm thinking like I'm doing decent online, but I was like, I don't know how good I am. But I feel like I gauge how good I am with you, and I'm like I can get better. I'm doing good.
Oh yeah, you're definitely not terrible, especially your Ken. Yeah, the one good thing that you have too when you especially when you played against me is like your timing. Your timing is like immaculate and stuff. So I'll tell you, even when I try to do my my drive rush or whatnot, somehow still managed to catch me off guard or whatnot, and know it's followed with like either a grab or like a whiff punish, which is really good.
Yeah, I'm not good at using drive rush, but I'm good at countering drive rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was playing somebody one time, and you can tell that they were either new or this was their first time playing a fighting game for a while, but they just would not stop jumping. And I'm like, bro, I'm playing Ken. He has one of the best anti-airs in the game. Why do you keep jumping in? Stop jumping in. You can't jump in against Ken or Ryu.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the downfalls. Like if you're jumping a lot and you're going against like a Ken, Ryu, and even nowadays like Luke or whatnot, it's guaranteed you're gonna get like an uppercut to the jaw eventually. So
Yeah.
especially if it's like extremely obvious now.
I hate fighting other Kens because I just can't jump.
Right.
Or Ryu's. I did try a DJ a little bit when I was playing by myself in training mode, and he's fun, so I'll probably play with him later on. But my secondary is Jury. During the beta, I played a lot of Jury alongside Ken, so she's definitely next on my list to grind with. Who are your mains?
Well, pretty much as you listed, like the main two is Jerry and Ken. Well, Jerry being number one because I put like a mass amount of hours in her since Street Fighter 4 or whatnot, and that's kind of been like my biggest character for like the longest time. And then Ken being the second main because I played him since Third Strike. Yeah, Ken is like probably like one of the best anti-air like with punishers in the game. But other characters though, besides them two, I've been playing a lot of Luke lately. And Luke has been extremely fun. He has a lot of slow command inputs though, but I think it's like the way you put him in to where it could be like easily to like counteract towards certain other opponent moves. He's been really fun lately. And other than that, I've also been playing a little bit me, and I know a lot of people aren't really a big fan of Jamie, at least not at the moment. So at least just going against them.
I hate fighting Jamie. I hate fighting any of the new like three main characters. I hate fighting Kimberly, Jamie, and Luke. I do not like fighting those three.
Jamie is definitely like type character. I'm not trying to put it in perspective of like if you know how to play Lei Wulong at Tekken or like Bo Raicho in Mortal Kombat X, and he's kind of on that same level as them two with the whole drunken fist and the whole breakdancing style fighting moves. He's really fun to learn, but definitely also difficult to play.
Yeah. I haven't actually. You know what? I think that's one of the characters I haven't tried out yet. I should have tried him out when I was over there. But yeah, Jamie's interesting. I need to just fight more Jamies. I feel like online I'm running into a lot of juries for sure,
Yeah.
and dang, I can't even remember what characters I've run into. I feel like Jury is definitely the one I see the most. And most
For
people,
me, I definitely, for me, I've definitely run into a lot of Zang. Scary.
I haven't ran into a lot of grapplers. I haven't ran into any Zangiefs or Manons or anything. Somehow, I don't know.
He's so hard to counter react. Like you can literally be in the middle of like your parry animation, and he'll still try to grab you out of that regardless.
Yeah, me and you were messing around with a bunch of random characters at one point, and I chose E Honda, and E Honda's grab is crazy. His command grab,
It's insane, and it's really effective in close range too. It's so insane.
especially when you enhance it, it's ridiculous. It's good.
Yeah,
I might put some effort into E Honda. E Honda is good. I don't know if I want to fight E Honda online.
like 30, like 40% plus damage. That's insane. On EX, that's insane.
What has your online experience been like?
It's kind of been it's like it's always on a scale of like 50-50. Like half of it being like not too bad, not too shabby. I've had a lot of matches, and then the other half being extremely difficult. But then there's also a lot of other people that like spam certain same moves and whatnot. So it's about like 50-50. I think one of my greatest like matches I've came across, I think this was recently, I think like a couple days ago, and I was playing against this Ryu player that was playing as Ken. It felt like probably one of the honest matches that I've ever fought in a while, where like there's not not a lot of jumping, there's not spamming like rush drive, like rush drives, any of that. It just felt real, and the guy was very cool to play against too. Like it wasn't too terrible.
Oh yeah, it's always fun playing with somebody you can go tit for tat with, and that you just keep rematching, and y'all are like even playing field, and it's going back and forth.
Yeah, like I remember during the beta that I was going against this other Ryu player and this Ken, and we probably had like the longest first to 10 match, and it was so even. Like it was both like I get like a win, he gets a win, I get a win, and he get a win, and so on and so forth. That's probably the best experience I felt in like a Street Fighter match, like in general. Like one of the best.
Yeah. So
It was
have you played any of the World Tour?
Yes, and I need to really continue on to it right now, but I have, and wow, it's so fun.
Yeah,
It is.
World Tour is fun. Unfortunately, Final Fantasy 16 came out not too long ago, so I'm busy with that. So it's gonna be a while before I hop back into Street Fighter 6 World Tour, but I have played a little bit of it, and from my experience with it so far, it's a fun idea, but you can tell it's in its infancy, and that it will undoubtedly be much better next time they do it, or even in like any DLC they add, you can tell they're gonna improve on it. I feel like it's a solid foundation, and it's fun the way that it is, but like I can't help but notice all the flaws and see how it could be better.
Yeah.
Being able to combine different of the main characters' moves together is really cool. Currently, I'm using I'm waiting to find Ken so I can get a Shoryuken, and so I can just get everything that he has, as well as his Shoryuken and Hadoken. But right now I'm using DJ's Fireball, and I think I have Manon's her Charge Punch, and Luke's Uppercut right now, and I'm using I think Luke's main like fighting style for the normals. But
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for Ken to get the normals because I know how to play Ken, so I can use his normals much better once I get him.
Like I said, it is really fun. You do eventually get to, 'cause I have Ken's on mine. Mine's is literally just a combination of just both Ken Shoryuken with Luke's I think it's command kick walking forward, and then I do also have DJ's Fireball, which is extremely fun.
Ooh,
So it might more of like a close range, but also kind of like type character.
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm probably definitely going to get E Honda's command grab when I get the chance.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Ken's normals, his uppercut, his fireball, the charge punch from uh, Marissa, and the command grab from Honda, and I'm gonna be a beast. Have you played any online matches with your created character, your avatar?
Yeah, I've only played against Robert for that moment because I kind of wanted to like wait to like level up my character like just a little bit more until I can start going against other people because like I've been going to the battle hub a lot and been like watching like other like people fight whatnot. And their levels are like beyond the charts. So I'm like nowhere near that level yet. So I'm just kind of being patient right now and just waiting until the moment's right.
It's funny. I'm like I think I'm in like 20s now, and like running up on the people who's like level 2 and just destroying them just feels disrespectful. It's like, why am I beating up this baby?
Right.
But I need that XP. But who is it? It's interesting. I wonder how they managed to make it to where no matter where you are, no matter who you fight, every area of the streets turns into a stage. I feel like that is
Yeah.
an impressive technical feat. That
Yeah, like
it's incredible that they managed to do that.
yeah, like you literally like could be like fighting in like the corner of a wall next to like a gas station or something, and then yeah, that just magically turns into a fighting stage. Somehow just make it work. That's kind of like one of the coolest like mechanics they came up with.
Yeah, so I haven't finished the story but from what I've heard, um, it could be better, and that
Mm.
a lot of questions are left unanswered when it comes to the actual like main Street Fighter characters. And I feel like that's something they could improve in like DLC or like a future game where like I feel like the main character's story should like interweave with our avatar story and should come to at least at the very least a satisfying conclusion, if not a complete conclusion. Like apparently even in his arcade mode and not even in the main story, like Ken's story doesn't get like a resolution.
Yeah,
Like
which
there
is
is
kind of odd.
that is very strange, and it makes me wonder: are they going to do that in DLC, or do they have like a lot more plans for the World Tour mode in DLC, and that's why they haven't fully done it in the main game, or if this is just something like this is their first time doing this, so they're just make it's not perfect.
Yeah, still trying to like work out the like the tweaks, bugs, or whatnot. But yeah, but I just know that for like at least for the main characters, as far as like their stories and backgrounds and whatnot, they just all mostly heavy like resolve around just the arcade mode or whatnot. So you probably would have to just play that to get more in depth of like certain characters and stuff. When you play Ken's like arcade mode, it tells more about what has happened with him, like how he got to what he is now, how he got framed as this type person.
Yeah,
Yeah, it tells more, but I wish it could like kind of explain more in depth into that in World War.
yeah. As much as I love like a lot of Capcom games, their writing staff, like their stories, don't be hidden usually. Like I like Devil May Cry is good and all, and there it has its moments, but the story of Devil May Cry isn't the most interesting or engaging. And I feel like the best. I feel like Resident Evil is their best in terms of story because that's their most like story focused franchise. But
Right.
even then, it's not perfect, but it has been getting better and better with each year. Like Resident Evil 4 remake story is amazing, and I feel like with Street Fighter is the area where their story is the weakest, and they need to like their writers just need to step up their game.
Yeah, that is it is very true. Especially if you like go back into like playing like Street Fighter Five story and kind of how like less there is with certain characters, how there's not a lot of good pacing towards build up within like certain fights, encountering with another like enemy or something. I just felt like I feel like that story has been rushed and also at the same time not putting much enough effort and stuff to it. And a lot of people were very confused about the conclusion of like the Street Fighter Five story, the ending fight, and freaking a bunch of other people that was in that same scenario with them. I I just felt like that with that story in particular, though, it could have been more thought out with the certain character that we're playing as, which I thought it would have been like Nash or something, but it was kind of revolving like around everybody and stuff. So it kind of started to lose its plot of what was
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, that one was very clearly rushed, and it was just them like trying to like build up Street Fighter 5 to actually be a good game because it started off very incomplete, and they were clearly trying to compete with games like Mortal Kombat, and in terms of story mode, which is just like Mortal Kombat has a bigger budget. You're just not going to do it. So yeah, it was a mess. But Street Fighter 6, they really stepped up their game in that regard, and hopefully they can keep improving on the story in the future. In terms of like the avatar customization, I think that is also something that can be improved in terms of the character creator as well as the clothes that you buy from stores. They're all ugly. Like I'm just waiting to be able to get Ken's gi or Ryu's gi because all the clothes that you can actually buy in stores do not look good, and I wish that they were better.
Yeah, in some areas I can definitely agree. But for at least for me though, like I pretty much got clothes based on like one of my OCs I created. Cause I made my OC in my in my world tour. So the clothes that she has on there, it fits her. But yeah, I completely agree. If you like doing like a character like for yourself or whatnot, it's not a lot of options and stuff that you can choose from.
Yeah, I feel like
And
yeah, there are just a lot of there's a lot of good stuff. Like there are a lot of great ideas in the world tour, but a lot of it is half baked. The story is half baked. The customization is half baked. The RPG stuff, the leveling stuff is good, but not fully realized. And the only part that is fully realized is arguably the part that matters the most, which is the fighting, which makes sense because it's a fighting game. But in the future, if they really want to expand on this game mode and to really have an interesting story that's gonna bring casual players into the game, they're gonna have to expand on all of those things and make it better as time goes on.
which they probably will when dropping this other new updates that they got going on with the other new guest characters that's coming in and other
Yeah,
stuff. So
for sure, they have been adding like DLC, cosmetic items for the avatars. I'm very
yeah,
interested. I'm very interested to see what the costumes for the main characters will look like. Because there were some really good costumes in Street Fighter Five.
oh yeah,
So I really want to see what they look like in this. Like of course, Chun Li's 100% gonna get her alpha costume. She has to.
they need to. That's
That's
definitely like one of her iconic outfits as
that's
well.
like easily her second most iconic outfit after her original. So yeah, we're definitely gonna see some stuff like that. Who is it? And there's the Ryu. I think it's multiple characters, but at the very least, Ryu is in was it Exoprimal, their dinosaur like shooter game, and
Yeah, the crossover game. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that version of Ryu became a skin in Street Fighter Six. That robot Ryu.
that's what had me fooled. I was thinking it was gonna be like a skin.
Yeah, I did
thing
too.
for
I
the
thought it was.
characters.
I thought it was gonna be like a robot skin for the characters to look like the Exo suits in Exo Primal, but no, they straight up added a Ryu skin to Exo Primal, which is funny.
Yeah, it was both for. I think it was both him and Gaio, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely had me fooled thinking it was either a skin. Well, first it kind of had me thinking this was like some random expansion thing to like just like a world tour where you can like play as the main characters and you can fight dinosaurs or whatnot. And then I thought it was skins, but no, it's
Yeah,
crossover.
I did too for a second too. I thought it was gonna be expanding the world tour for a second. That would have been fun. Like if you fought dinosaurs, that would be funny. But something else I think they could expand on is in a sequel. It'd be cool if they straight up added a beat 'em up mode to the game, like a mode where like it turns to side scroller and you're going throughout the city and playing it like a beat 'em up. That would be really fun.
Yeah, and
Like
literally I was gonna say the closest we technically have though
it's the
in
train.
world tour. Yeah, it's just the train. That's pretty much just it.
Well,
That's the closest we got.
if they made a full on beat 'em up mode in the game that turns into a side scroller and you can do it with maybe you can even do it online and it becomes like a leaderboard type thing, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like they could really expand on it. It makes me low-key want to see them make a new Final Fight.
I was really hoping for like at least like a remake of the Final Fight. I think it's Final Fight 1, I believe. They used to had on the I think it was the Game Boy Advance, I believe.
Yeah, so Wiz, I did play the entirety of Final Fight on one of the arcade cabinets with Takira actually, who's been on this podcast as well, a friend of me and Craig's. We played the entirety of Final Fight on the arcade in Street Fighter 6 back in the last beta before the game came out.
Hmm.
So I hope they have the second one eventually. I kind of want to play through all the Final Fights now, or at least the older ones. But
Yeah.
I can see how cool a remake or a new Final Fight would be. My idea for a new Final Fight would be that you introduce some new characters. Like Kimberly should be a character in a new Final Fight. She should 100% be a character. And then you of course still have Guy and Cody. And you bring in, I forget her name, but the girl from she was in a Street Fighter versus like SNK, I think. Maki, is that her name?
Yeah, Maki. Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think there should be a whole spin-off that's just about the what is that group of ninjas called? I forget what they're called.
The
I'm trying to think because Kimberly says it all the time in her intro, and I can't remember what it's called. It has Ryu in it though. It's like I don't remember, but that Ninja Clan, I feel like they could get their own spin-off.
yeah.
And that could be its own like hack and slash game where you play as Guy and Zeku and Maki and Kimberly. That would be really cool. But also just a new Final Fight in general would be cool. But yeah, that's all I got. If you don't have anything else,
I mean, as far as the Final Fight thing though, that would be really cool, and they'll have like other like previous characters you think like maybe even play as even like the bosses too, like probably plays like Hugo and Abigail,
yeah.
or like Poison. That would be really cool.
But also, I feel like in a new Final Fight, they would like do more to like make the different versions of those characters look different. Because in the old ones, like Poison and Hugo were all like the same character model. So they would have, and since Hugo and Poison and Abigail have become their own characters in Street Fighter, I would imagine that they would actually, have them be the main versions of those characters, but have the other versions of them use the same moves, or maybe similar moves, but look completely different, so that they aren't, since those characters have their own identity now as individual characters.
Yeah, very true, very true.
But yeah, it was good having you.
Well, yeah, it was definitely great to be on here, man, and talk about some Street.
Yeah,
Really hyped for this.
I'm definitely gonna have to have you on the second episode of Choose Your Character, which for you guys who don't know who that is, there's only one episode we made of that, and it's on the channel, and it's where we create rosters for fighting games, and we did one for Injustice 3 a while back. And I have one. The next one I'm gonna do is for either a new Marvel vs. Capcom or just a Marvel fighting game.
That was actually cool.
I'm gonna have to have you on that one. Another one we could do is that I've been thinking about a lot lately is a horror fighting game if it was made by NetherRealm.
That would actually be insane to think about it.
But yeah, we'll get into that later. I'm gonna go into not Street Fighter 6. I was gonna say Street Fighter 16, Final Fantasy 16 after this. So I will talk about, to wrap things up so we can stop. Final Fantasy 16, because that's out, and I literally took 2 days off of work to play it. It's good. It's real good. I know you said you're interested in Aiara.
I am.
It's so good. So I'm gonna start off with the combat. The core goal of the combat in this game is to stun your enemies, then to like do as much damage as possible while they're stunned, and do as much damage to get them stunned in the first place. So it's just constant damage you have to be doing on like certain enemies, especially the bigger enemies. And that's just fun, just stringing together all of these iconic abilities, as they're called, in between like perfect dodges, because of course you don't want to get hit and take damage. It's just really fun. It's an action game through and through. It's all about doing as much damage as fast as you can while dodging attacks. And because of that, the RPG elements are kind of weak in this game, in a negative way. Like, I wish they were better. And I'm glad you said that you played God of War, Emmet, because this game has the opposite problem that I have with the God of War games, where I think that the RPG systems in the God of War games should be toned down a little bit. I think that a lot of those systems are unnecessary.
Like the weapons kind of thing,
like
the upgrading and whatnot.
Yeah, all of that stuff. I think some of it can be toned down. But I have the opposite problem with this game, where I think literally all of the systems from God of War would be great in this game. I think the being able to customize and upgrade individual pieces of your armor, and going to blacksmiths to upgrade your weapons and gear and all that stuff would actually would be perfect for this game. And they have that in this game. It's just not done very well. And you also have an AI partner in this game, but like similar to God of War, I wish that you could customize them more. Like you can customize like Freya and Atreus in the God of War game. Like, yeah, I just that's all I have to say about the gameplay. In terms of the story, it heavily revolves around racism and environmentalism. So this world relies on magic to do everything, from creating fire to literally filling their cups with water. And there are two ways to do so: using crystals, which ties into the environmental aspect, and bearers, which tie into the racism aspect. Bearers are people born with the ability to use magic without crystals, and they are treated as slaves. And the crystals, they come from these 5 gigantic structures called mother crystals. And the problem there is that using magic hurts the land itself, causing a blight that sucks the life from the plants and prevents magic from being used in those areas where the blight has came. And it's spreading slowly across the entire planet as people continue to use this magic. And naturally, wars are fought over these things, and the main character, Clive, is caught in the middle. And the story is heavily inspired by fossil fuels and, you know, how they're used in real life and the wars fought out over them. And yeah, the story is so good. And oh my god, it's the boss fights are, I want to say they're God of War level, but they're not because they're bigger.
Ooh.
like
Shadow of the Colossus level, maybe?
No, because God of War is bigger than Shadow of the Colossus in terms of boss fights. And you got to play God of War. God of War boss is getting insane. Also, Emmet, the without spoiling it, you haven't played any of the other God of Wars other than 2018 and Ragnarok, but Ragnarok has.
No,
I love God of War 3 is literally my second favorite game of all time. It has some of the greatest bosses in any game, and Ragnarok has some bosses that rival bosses from God of War 3. So be excited for the boss fights in that game. They're incredible. So far, I mean, based on where you're at in the game, like there's one big boss fight at the very beginning that you've already fought. That's real good.
Yeah. Do I spoil?
I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler. I think Aiara knows that you fight Thor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like that's been in all the trailers and everything.
Yeah. The way that was handled, that's another thing of like mixing cutaway and like playing
with the cuts.
Like you're getting you're getting like a great story, but also you're getting great gameplay at the same time.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of that in Final Fantasy 16. Last night I played, I think what was the thing about the boss fights is, so I don't think that they go on for too long. I just think that they go on longer than you expect. Like you get to a point in the boss fight where you're like, well, obviously the boss fight's over, and then it keeps going, and you're like, what is happening? And it just the boss fights every single time just keep getting more and more insane, and I'm like, this is far exceeded God of War. Like I was sitting like when I went to this game, I knew the bosses were going to be insane and I was excited for it, but I was like, there's no way the bosses are going to be bigger than something like God of War or Asura's Wrath. They far exceeded both of those games. They really did. The boss fights in these games are amazing. I'm big on boss fights and hack and slashes. That's why hack and slash is my favorite genre. I really like good boss fights, and yeah, I'm excited for you to play this game whenever you get around to it. Ashley, you know what? I'm just remembering it's exclusive to PS5. You're not gonna play this game for years. Oh man, I forgot about that actually. I think this might be a game that will eventually release on like PC. Because PlayStation games do that. So yeah, I think this game will be on PC eventually. So you'll eventually be able to play it on PC.
Nice.
But yeah, I did want to have you talk about Zelda, but we've gone 30 minutes longer than we should. So next episode, I'm going to have you go on a long spiel about Zelda. I've been wanting you to talk about Zelda for the past 3 episodes, but there's just been a lot to talk about in the last couple of months. So we'll get to that next time. Thank you for coming, Emmet, on the podcast. I've been wanting you on the podcast for a while, and I'm glad that you got in contact with me about wanting to talk about the writer strike, because that made me go, you know what? We need to talk about that, and you would be perfect for it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think I was listening to one of your podcasts. I'm not like caught up, right? I kind of like pick a lot of the sections that you have on YouTube, and I was thinking like, hey, I really want to hear them talk about the writer strike. And I was like, oh wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you. You're one of the, if not the most like consistent viewer of our podcast. Like you are. I'm always responding to your comments every time you comment.
Yeah. Yeah, but you guys are. I've always enjoyed the podcast, and you've been consistent with it. I had one like a few years ago. I think we started around the same time.
Yeah.
And it went for a little bit, and then it just dipped off. But like you've maintained this whole thing, and I've always enjoyed it. So yeah, just keep doing it. I love it.
Okay. Now I'll do the outro again. I'm Dijon. You can find my ads below me. You can find Aiara's at below them and the Muskcast at below that. And Emmet's at will either be on the screen somewhere, but it will definitely be in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Peace.
Peace.